To the Appeals Committee for Wednesday, November 12th, 2025. My name is City Councilor Vivian Santos. I will be your chairperson for today. I have other members of council, Councilor Matthew Allard, Councilor Gilroy, and we do have Councilor Jan Wood. Unfortunately, she is not able to join us today. We also have members of the Winnipeg Public Service here, Senior Committee Clerk, who is working on behalf of Brendan. So Peter Prinsley, welcome. And we also have other public services from the Planning, Property and Development that will help us through the public hearing. I want to quickly acknowledge that we are meeting on Treaty 1 territory, the traditional homelands of the Red River Métis that we all have the privilege of living on. Also acknowledge our ancestral territory lands and that our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake Band number 40 in Treaty 3. And also acknowledge our neighbors in Treaty number 5 where our hydroelectricity comes from. Just moving down here, if we can have somebody move a motion, an absent motion for Councillor Wood.
So moved. The leave of absence for city business.
Okay, moved by Councillor Gilroy. All those in favor? Aye. And it's carried. If I can have somebody move the minutes of the meeting held on October 22nd, 2025 to be taken as read and confirmed. Okay, moved by Councillor Allard. All those in favor? Aye. And that's carried. Right. I will move it over to the clerk to walk us through the processes.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. In accordance with the City of Winnipeg Charter and the Development Procedures Bylaw, the process the committee will follow is the appellant will be heard first, followed by those in support of the appeal. Next, those registered in opposition are heard, followed by those registered for information. Finally, the appellant may return to speak in rebuttal to comments made. However, no new information is permitted. Please note that when your name is called, it is your opportunity to speak. However, you are not obligated to do so. For a more in-depth overview of the public hearing process and other information pertaining to what happens before, during, and after a public hearing, please consult the City Clerk's Department website. Please note that all public hearings are recorded and will be part of the public record. Should you have any questions after the hearings have concluded, please contact the City Clerk's Department. Item 1 is an appeal against the decision of the Director of Planning, Property and Development to reject a variance for 184 Bitterfield Drive under file DAV 211352A/2025B. So at this time, we'll hand it over to the public service to give us an overview on the matter. Please.
Good day, councillors and Mr. Clerk. The subject site is on the south side of Bitterfield Drive, east of Dana Crescent, in the recent neighborhood of Amber Trails within the Lord Selkirk, West Kildonan community. The property is 41 feet wide by 114 feet deep and is approximately 4,662 square feet in area. The applicant is proposing to construct an open deck, 8 feet deep, 14 feet wide, to the rear of their existing family dwelling. This concludes my summary. However, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Madam Chair, the Public Service, like generally speaking, why do we regulate decks?
Because they oftentimes function as additions. So the imposition they have in the yard isn't minimal.
So in this case, it's like it's getting beyond that level where it's getting into the possible future structure category. Possibly.
Landings are a permitted projection, so they're granted outright permissions. Decks of a certain size and height are not.
In this case, it's bigger. Okay, understood. Thank you. Like to have some kind of rationale.
Any further questions? Seeing none. Okay, hold on.
All right, so at this time, we'll call up the appellant, Sunny Chen. If Sunny is here. All right, if you can grab a seat at the end of the table there, and we'll put 5 minutes on the clock for you to make a presentation. Yes, please. And if you can state your name for the record, please.
Hi, my name is Sunny Chen. I'm the appellant for 184 Bitterfield Drive. I've never done this before, so it's my first time doing this, but I'm just really curious on why, when we've got approval from all of our neighbors, why we can't build a deck of a moderately sized deck to be able to enjoy. So that's basically the reason why we're appealing it.
Big questions? Yeah, go ahead.
So so your neighboring properties have all been
Yes.
okay with that?
Yeah, we've we've got instructions to get approval from all of our neighbors, which all of them okayed.
Do we have that? Is that part of the package? Do we have that confirmed?
I did fill
Chair,
out,
through you to the,
I did fill out a document and send it.
okay.
Maybe could you, I'm just looking at the package here, could you describe the deck for us that you are building, intending on building?
So it's like you mentioned earlier, it was an 8x14 size deck. But in that 8-foot depth, I have a section of my house where it sticks out 2 feet. So with your proposal of 25 feet from the residential, from my backside, that would actually leave me with only, because my house is 28.8 from the deck, from the residential property line. So with the proposed deck that you guys have recommended for 25 feet, that would pretty much leave me like 1.5 feet of space to build nothing really. So, and my doorway is like 6 foot off the ground. And I don't see the point of why they would build a house and just have, you require just to build stairs to go down to build a deck when you have the space to build a good sized deck to enjoy.
Yeah.
So we're basically limited by that variance.
So, Madam Chair, through you to,
Yes, go ahead.
to the applicant. So, heard from the public service, some of the concern is about future use of the deck being the property rights go with the land. So, like the next person might be coming here to formalize a structure like as part of the house. It's kind of like a way of, we see the application come in and one day it's a deck and then the next time it's like, it's a slippery slope argument. Like the next time it'll be something bigger, like enclosing the deck.
Yeah, understand that.
Do you see your whole neighborhood like with enclosed decks? That look okay? If every house were doing what you were doing?
I mean, if they're my neighbors, it's their house. I don't see why. If I okayed it or approved of it, I don't see why it shouldn't.
Okay, well, that's like, so aesthetically,
And
the whole street look like that. You think that would be okay?
I mean, I personally would be fine with it.
Yeah.
It's to each their own house. If it doesn't invade anyone's privacy and they're okay with it, I don't see why not.
I mean, it sounds to me, Madam Chair, like that if this is granted, that there's not much of a deck given the dimensions of the property. It's like there's either a deck or not a deck. Like staircases to, I guess, permeable like to yard or a staircase to the deck. And
Yeah, like if you were to see the measurements of my blueprint of my house, you'd see that 25 feet from the back neighbor would push right in like about, like I said, 1.5 feet into the wall of my house that sticks out.
Madam Chair,
So I can't really build anything at that point.
Madam Chair, is it okay to ask questions of public service in tandem, or do we have to?
I think he's allowed to come back in rebuttal, is that right?
Yes, that's
Yeah,
correct, yeah.
so if you have questions, we can move on to the questions of the public service unless there's more people
Well, it's
here appealing.
like, maybe I'll ask,
Unless you're looking for
yeah,
clarification.
maybe is there, yes, to the appellant. Did you explore any other options other than this one? Like, was this like the only thing that would be supported, or is there something in the middle, like a smaller deck, perhaps? Was anything else explored other than yes or no?
We tried looking at different measurements, but like I mentioned, that 8 foot was already including that 2 foot section of my house that's sticking out. So technically from the actual house, it's actually 6 feet. So if you think of how big 6 feet is, probably the length of this table. So anything smaller than that from an upsize from 6 feet high, what can you really do up there, right? Or put up there?
Okay, it's nature of small properties and our zoning model.
Mhm.
I'm good.
I'm good, I'm ready for the move.
Okay, thank you for coming out. You'll have an opportunity to come back and rebut.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I do also, in favor of the appeal, have Vlad Andreev. Sir, if you would like to make a presentation, that's your time.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hello, Vlad, welcome.
Hello. So my name is Vlad Andreev. I work for the company called Crafted Exteriors. And I was collaborating with the homeowner, Mr. Chen, with regard to this structure. My supporting comment would be that in real life, we are actually talking about very small structure, and it's limited with a little bit different type of characteristics. For example, there is like Mr. Chen mentioned, there is a cantilevered section of the house that reduces the actual width of the deck to be 6 feet. And also it has a door that swings out that if you build something smaller, it's basically not going to be usable because the door swings out and there is no room even to step and close the door behind you. As well as the height of this structure, it's around 6 feet, which makes it very important to have access. So for family in situation of emergency, you have to have some secondary option to exit the house. And in this case, any kid or any adult even jumping from 6 foot height, it's kind of makes it difficult to get through that door. So any structure that helps to exit or enter the house would be necessary for that premises, as well as we reviewed other options, and due to the height of the threshold of the door, any stairs that we suggested to build would be basically not possible to incorporate, because if we build the steps or stairs down to the east side of the house, it's just hitting right away the fence because it's very close to the property line. If we do steps down to the west side, it's gonna create conflict with the window that located on the west side of the house. If you can see the drawings, there is a window right there, the egress window that not possible to build anything in front of it. And if it directs the stairs down to the middle of the lot, it basically takes you all the way to the middle of the backyard, which is going to be not usable and not doesn't make any sense. So this is why we came up with this design that the actual steps incorporated into that deck, and it doesn't take any space from any side of the property, not east, not west, not the rear part of the backyard. And we think this is the only way it can be functional, and the same way, like not making any conflict with neighbors or fences or windows of the house. So we would like to ask if it can be considered to approve. And as you mentioned before, that some people might decide to build in future something on top of the deck or enclose it, I would assume they would need to apply for permit and verify the design of the piles or supporting components of the deck will actually support any structure. So it's going to be a process that will be limiting people to build anything on top because you do require permit for enclosed structures. So I don't think it should be a concern, and the homeowner does not plan to build anything, and it's not incorporated into the design of the deck that we proposed. So I don't think it's a real concern that someone will decide to build on that, because there is some measures to control it, as far as I assume. That's it. That's what I wanted to add in to support.
Madam Chair.
Thank you. I noticed that there is a cantilever style window projection. How deep is that cantilever projection?
It's 2 feet deep into the deck. This is why we forced to have that dimension of 8 feet, because otherwise it's going to be very narrow deck.
Is there a reason why you don't build the deck over onto the other side? So you have the door, I believe, that's going to come onto the deck, but then the deck goes to the other window, which is not a cantilever window. It looks like the window is flush.
So on the other side of the house, there is a basement window that, due to the size, it's considered to be egress window to allow exit point from the house. If you would build anything there, it would create a kind of similar situation when it's going to be conflict with the window, and also it's not going to affect the height concern, which is 6 feet, and you require for example, 8 or 9 steps to get transition between threshold to the ground level. So it requires a long structural steps, probably 9 steps. So it's probably 8 to 9 feet that still needs to go somewhere east or west, and it's going to be fence. It's narrow lot. It's a fence or window on one side, and if you go directly to middle of the lot, it's just not usable as homeowners prefer to use it. For many years now, having that backyard and never actually used it as a backyard because they have no access from the house. It's just an empty lot. They pay property tax and not enjoying that property. So we did consider to move it in different directions. It's just the design would not work without making it even more complicated than it is right now.
Councilor Lard?
Yeah, my question is, well, the deck structure from the right of way, like how close are you getting to is there no,
No.
it's just the neighboring property?
Yeah.
Ah, okay. All right, sorry. I'm good. Thank you.
Seeing no other questions? Thank you for coming out.
So I'll just check with the gallery if there's anyone else here who wishes to speak in support of the appeal. Anyone who wishes to speak in opposition to the appeal, or anyone who wishes to speak on information to the appeal. Seeing none, Madam Chairperson.
Okay, questions of the administration?
Well, I think I've heard, we have the report. We've answered our questions. I guess I'm leaning towards, if I were to move a motion, to let the property owner do what they want. It seems the neighbors are fine with it. I mean, I think zoning is there in order to create this type of forum. In this case, like I see someone wanting to improve their property and no one cares. And it's like from residential to residential. And I don't see a material adverse effect to I would see a material adverse effect to the property owner, but not to the adjoining properties. Like if they want to build their forever home where they can enjoy their backyard, this is how they want to enjoy their backyard. I don't think a deck is gonna break the world.
So what's your question of the administration?
I think I've basically rhetorically said I think the administration's already made their position clear and their concerns in terms of why they have this policy framework. But I think in this case, I'd be comfortable saying like a deck's fine in this case.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I'm at.
Questions?
No, the only concern I guess the public administration has is that somebody could build on it.
That's not the only concern, but it's one of.
Okay.
The main concern is that there's no lane providing a buffer to this. So although the neighbors may agree today, you could have someone for unextenuating circumstances have to move or leave these properties and then have a very tall deck where people would then be able to look into their yards because it would be so tall. So although the support is taken into consideration when you're asking for such a reduction in the rear yard.
So the concern is the deck height.
And the privacy that could be impeded upon the adjoining properties, yes.
I'm ready to move a motion.
We have to give the appellant a return to
Mhm.
rebut.
Right. Okay. We'll give Sunny, I believe, to
Yes.
come back.
If you would like to come back and speak in rebuttal to any of the comments made in these proceedings, now's your chance, but we'll just caution you, no new information.
So to your when you're saying about the deck being too high, even though my neighbors have all approved of that, shouldn't that be okay because that's the current situation and not a future situation that could be different? Just like with anything in life.
Madam Chair, just rules of order in terms of presentation, new information.
Yeah.
Just asking a question in public service.
Yeah. A rebuttal, and I think you've highlighted why you're rebutting that comment. Maybe just instead of asking it as a question, maybe more of a rebuttal.
Oh, and also what you were saying too about potentially building on the other side is my main living room window sticks out on that side. And building a deck there, I would have no view. It would just be the deck where I actually want to be able to see down onto the ground and see what activities we can have there and actually have a view instead of a deck blocking all that. And also, like Bilal mentioned, there's a basic window that's about 2.5 feet out of the ground. If you build a deck on that side, that's pretty much a useless window then. And my door is facing the west side, so it swings open. So it's kind of hard to try to build a stairway from that side when it's facing one way. It's not in the middle of that cantilever. It's on the inside of the house side. And that's why we thought this size of a deck, which isn't that very big at all. We see other neighbors down the street from us who have third-story balconies and decks where they can oversee other neighbors easily. So I don't see why it's an issue with my smaller bungalow house to have a 6-foot-high deck, where you see 3-story balconies that can oversee the whole area, really.
Good. Thanks for that. Good.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I will entertain motions. I believe Councillor Allard.
Yeah.
Need to move some motions here.
Yeah, I just gotta find the script. Do you mind pulling it up?
Three.
I got like 100 ones open. I can also try.
It's coming, it's just now, it's doing something. Okay, here we go. There we go.
I move that the report of the Winnipeg Public Service be taken as read.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's carried.
I move that the receipt of public representations be concluded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
That's carried.
I move that in accordance with subsection 247.3 of the City of Winnipeg Charter, the variance is consistent with Plan Winnipeg and any applicable secondary plan does not create a substantial adverse effect on the amenities, use, safety, and convenience of the adjoining property and adjacent uses, including an area separated from the property by a street or waterway, is the minimum modification of a zoning bylaw to relieve the injurious effect of the zoning bylaw on the applicant's property and is compatible with the area in which the property to be affected is situated. Supporting reasons. I mean, we have the zoning bylaw. It's the lowest order document that we have. The public service has made it clear that that they have reasons for which they would like. They are opposing this, and I think they're looking at the whole neighborhood, the whole city when they're looking at these applications. And I think in this particular case, we have a case of someone who wants to do a modest improvement to a property, has support of neighbors. And it's true that rights do go with the land. In the future, there may be consideration or complaints from future neighbors, but right here, right now, I think this is the right decision to make for this property owner that wants to improve their property.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, and that's carried.
And I move the public hearing with respect to this appeal be concluded. Oh, I move that
Yes.
variance order DAV.
Oh, before that
I
one.
move that the appeal be denied.
No.
And
No.
I move that the appeal be allowed and
Yes.
the decision of the Director of Planning Property Development be not concurred in.
Correct. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Can I move the variance order DAV 113,
Nope. Try it again.
DAV 11.
There's a 2 in there.
There's a 2 in there.
Oh, sorry, DAV 211352/2025B B.
Cancelled.
Canceled? Okay.
Okay, all
Canceled.
those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I move that the Winnipeg public hearing with respect to this appeal be concluded.
There you go. All in favor?
Aye.
That's carried.
Please note that the committee has made a final decision on this matter, which is not subject to further appeal. Item 2 is an appeal against the decision of the Director of Planning, Property and Development to reject a variance for 110 Siskin Bay under file DAV 218682A/2025B. And once again, we'll hand it over to the public service.
The subject site is on the east side of Siskin Bay, north of Robert Boxdale Drive, in the recent neighborhood of Sage Creek within the Riel community. The property is 48 feet wide by 114 feet deep and is approximately 5,517 square feet in area. The applicant is proposing to construct an open deck 12 feet deep by 24.5 feet wide to the rear of their existing single-family dwelling. This concludes my summary. However, I'm happy to answer any questions.
So, I guess I gotta ask, why are we allowing developments to take place with their heights? And then not allowing these decks to be allowed, knowing that people are gonna want a deck in the back of their
Unfortunately, the zoning bylaw does not address decks and the dwelling separately. So when a home builder comes in and sees a 25-foot rear yard requirement, they will build that dwelling up to that point. They will put a ledger board there, they will put a door there, which misleads the purchaser that potentially in the future they would be able to have a deck leading out off of that doorway and that ledger board, when the reality is no. The home,
Then why are we dealing with that within our policy? Like, that just doesn't make sense. And we're not doing, is that something we need to look at changing here in our policy?
it is something that's been brought forward to the group that's currently working on the changes for the big zoning bylaw change that will be coming up in a couple of years. So it is something that's being discussed, yes.
It's a problem.
Yeah, it's definitely a problem.
The homeowners, then I guess what would happen is they could potentially build a staircase down and then build 1 foot deck from
Every,
the floor, right?
every
That doesn't
single-
require a permit.
every single deck that is brought to my attention for variance, I always offer them the opportunity to do a 6x6 landing, then with stairs leading down to a deck that would be less than 2 feet. So it could literally be 1'9" deck. You still have a decent height. But you have a 36 square foot maximum area. That's a permitted projection. It can be in that 25-foot rear yard. And then you can have stairs leading down to a deck that could occupy your entire yard if it was under 2 feet in height. So that's always an option I provide to every single applicant
So
to
this
see
would,
if there is some way to work around having to come to these variants.
so this would also work in this case? Just,
Yeah.
this is just basically keeping the deck lower,
Yeah, basically,
allows for compliance with the zoning bylaw.
exactly.
Okay.
And avoid this entire process.
So basically, you have 2 different layers of deck.
A 2-tiered deck, yes. Building code only requires a 3-foot by 3-foot landing when you exit a doorway. So double that size, 6x6 is quite generous. It usually allows for a door to swing outward and still room to step around it and get inside and out. Questions?
Well, we'd already ruled on it, but this is something that we could have done with the previous application.
The previous applicant was offered that same option to construct a landing and then, but as you heard them say, that wasn't something they were willing to entertain due to their site conditions.
Was that because the egress window was not related?
To be honest, I offered it to them and their reply to me was no. So I didn't.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, no, it's already ruled on.
It's been
So,
ruled on, yeah.
yeah. Well,
Each appeal is different. So
And this
we should be looking at each appeal.
We also don't have a public lane. So normally there would have been some type of buffer sort of built into the neighborhood. We don't have this here again.
I guess if you're buying these big houses and like, and you're butting up against a neighbor, I guess the reality is that, I mean, this could happen, right? Like, people are gonna need an entranceway out of their
The home
properties.
builder is going to continue to do this. Yes, this is going to continue to be an issue. Yeah.
well,
We have to put it in.
and then the builder will say, well, so
Yeah.
That's what I mean. The home
Right.
builders, they
Yeah.
clean hands on them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, so we're making a choice of whether or not the neighboring property is viewing the deck of the other neighboring property.
That is
or
the
the
main
deck
issue.
of the neighboring property viewing into the other property. I mean, it's,
But there's things,
guess-
privacy screens,
yeah, I know,
things we.
I guess I'm saying, like, either way, if you want to frame it as a privacy issue, you have either one or the other. It's like, who has the privacy issue?
Okay, any other further clarification we need from the department? Can we move on to the
I-
appellant?
No, I don't think that. Nope.
Okay,
Good.
let's move on.
Yeah.
Okay, I have 2 appellants, neither of whom have registered, so I'll just check, is either Deanna or Linda here today? Deanna? All right, you're Deanna Fakonenkamhem? All right, perfect. If you want to grab a seat there, and I'll give you a piece of paper to fill out.
I don't think she wants to go.
Okay. All right, so you're the appellant? Okay, so you don't want to speak at all? Okay. But you do, Jordan?
Please.
Okay. All right.
Jordan registered?
Jordan is the applicant, yes.
Is the applicant? Okay, but he's not the appellant.
No.
So he will, so you need to understand, the appellant is the only person that has the opportunity to rebut. The applicant does not. Okay, so what we could do is, we've done in the past, is the appellant can come up and somebody could kind of speak on their behalf. Okay, but can it be the applicant, same person, just looking to the clerk if that would be appropriate? Because you can share your time with somebody to assist you.
Sure,
Okay.
I'll just need the forms to be filled out.
And for the, like, just
Okay.
so it's clear to the people presenting, it's a benefit to the appellant because this way you can come back after.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
So-
you won't have,
you won't have an opportunity to come back. So if the appellant can come up, you can bring your designer or something like that to come up and share your time. We'll allow that. I think that's in order. And then, this way the appellant has an opportunity to come back and rebut with the guy who's building the deck, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
Yep.
let's do that. Okay, so you'll have to come up. You will have to come up. Both of you can come up and you'll share your 5 minutes time. We'll allow that. But we'll need you to fill out some forms, okay? Perfect. So both of you can introduce yourselves, then maybe do a slight introduction, the owner, do a slight introduction, and then hand over your time over to the person beside you, okay? Okay, perfect.
My name is Deanna Brackingham. I'm the co-owner. We're looking to appeal the deck we're proposing. It doesn't meet the 25-foot clearance from the back. Our neighbors have all signed off. We have a neighbor across the street on the other side who had a variance that was approved. Same issue. I think he has about 19 feet. Similar to what we're asking for. I think this is Jordan.
I'm Jordan Duick, the contractor. I've been doing this for over 20 years. I've never had to go to an appeal meeting for a deck variance. All the neighbors, same thing, were given approval, and now we are in an appeal meeting to rebuttal it, and we are not sure why, if all the neighbors, same as the last project, why if all the neighbors are okay with it, why we are not able to build a deck that meets very similar variance requirements that were passed by the neighbors at 103 Siskin.
is that the end of the presentation?
Is that the end of your presentation? Do you want to maybe describe the deck?
Yeah, it's a 24 by 12 deck, single level. Similar to what the administration said, the builder had cemented in and stuccoed in a ledger board all the way across the back of the house, giving the homeowner the, thought that they would be able to build a deck there. And now we cannot. So if we cannot, we would have to do a renovation to the exterior of the home without having an unsightly ledger board running across the back of the home.
Could you explain, there was obviously an alternative option with kind of a landing deck. Why would you not go with that version?
Well, one reason would be it would be really unfunctional. So I understand the appeal to go underneath 2 feet. That would make the deck extremely unfunctional. Then you have a ledger board that you would have to renovate. Not your guys' problem, but it's unfortunate that the builder did cement that ledger board in. So we would have to do a full renovation to do that. And furthermore, my clients, when you sit down and design a project with a client, you're also designing it with their family's needs in mind. And they do have family members with some comorbidities, some issues. And the idea to walk up and down the stairs, I said I would apply for a variance and see if that was an option, because I just felt like it was better use for their family.
Just order, Madam Chair. Just
Sorry,
if we're
go
done. Just I'd just like to know that we're done the presentation.
Oh,
Get
yes.
into Q&A.
Apologies.
That's okay. Are we
Thank
into
you.
Q&A now?
Yes, we can do Q&A.
Okay.
Sorry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I think the question was the same. Was that, why not the lower deck? And perhaps the appellant applicants can explain what the option proposed by the public service would actually entail in terms of costs, major renovation? What would that mean if it had to be the lower deck? Like what, in more detail, what would that mean for the homeowner?
Yeah, like in order to do that renovation, you're gonna have to match stucco, which is not matchable. So even if we do the renovation, it would work in terms of sealing the building up, but it's not gonna look good on a brand new house.
But what about cost
I would say probably it's hard to know, but $5,000.
difference? Like $500,000 more to
Yeah.
do it the other way?
Yeah.
And this is because the houses are built in the way that they are, Madam Chair, through you to the applicant? It's because of the way the house is built?
Yeah, like so the city of Winnipeg, it is on their building plans, and the city of Winnipeg did approve their building plans, but that ledger board stuck it into it, knowing full well that I could build a deck on it.
Ah, okay. Okay, well, I guess the plot thickens a little bit, Madam Chair, through you, I guess, as a thank you for the response to the delegation. Okay.
Any other questions? So I'm just looking here. I see, I believe wind deck.
Correct,
It's
yeah.
yourself. There's a picture, rear elevation picture I see in your submission. And the ledger board, okay, it does not go around the entire home.
Correct.
Okay, it only goes from where to where? From the edge of the home to the, I'm assuming that's a door?
Yeah, the homeowners only want to utilize exactly what was left behind.
Okay. And then how high is it from the ground to the ledger
It's
board?
about 4 feet high.
Okay, so it's 4 feet high, so it's not, okay. Okay. And you're saying that the ledger board is actually cemented into the home?
Yeah, drip edged and waterproofed so that they're not gonna have any structural issues.
Interesting. Okay. Thank you. Okay, seeing no other further questions, the both of you will have an opportunity to rebut.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'll just check with the gallery if there's anyone else here who wishes to speak in support of this appeal. Anyone who wishes to speak in opposition to this appeal, or anyone for information. Seeing none, Madam Chairperson.
Okay, we can move on to questions of the administration. We have any clarification questions?
Like Madam Chair,
Yeah.
through you to the public service, I mean, it seems we have like a process issue here in terms of buildings being approved that have, up to including like plans with decks on them and not conforming to the allowable rights are on the property, and it seems to me that, I mean, I know we consider every application on their own merit, but it seems to me this is very much similar to the last, and I heard a material difference of $5,000 if the homeowner were to be denied this and wanted to go forward with the deck anyway. I'm not sure that's a question really to the public service. They've been clear about why this is happening. Madam Chair.
Yeah.
I mean, unless my colleagues want more information.
Well, when is the policy? When are we looking at changing this policy?
I believe there's a major zoning bylaw change for 2028.
Until 2028?
Takes a couple of years for it to go through.
Um,
And I can also confirm that the variance was approved across the street at 103. The difference was they only were a quarter of a foot off a tolerance, and they have a hydro area behind them, so they'll never have residential neighbors.
Yeah. Well, I think I'm ready to move motions again. Yeah. Mr. Clerk, there's rebuttal, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so you have a chance to rebut on some of the information you just heard, but just not new information. If you want to come back up, you do have an opportunity.
And you don't have to rebut.
Yeah, you don't have to, but you can if you'd like.
At 103 Siskin, they may only be half a foot off. In my situation, I am 6 feet off. Having said that, their neighbors' decks were very high, right across the bay at 112 Siskin. They do meet all they have the 25-foot setback, so that's not an issue in order for it to pass. But functionally, you can see absolutely everything from 1012 Siskin when I stand in their backyard. So that 6-foot difference will make zero difference on them seeing you or not.
I'd also like to just add that our neighbors have signed off and they don't have any issue with us building the decks. I don't see why it's an issue and how the corner behind it makes a difference if our neighbors don't.
Thank you. Being no questions?
Okay,
Okay, we're ready.
I'm ready to
We're
move
take
motion.
motions? Okay,
Yeah.
hold on, let me just go to page 3. Who's gonna move the motion? Councilor Lauren again? Sure, go ahead.
I move that the report of Winnipeg Public, I move that the report of the Winnipeg Public Service be taken as read.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I move that the receipt of public representations be concluded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I move that in accordance with subsection 247(3) of the City of Winnipeg Charter, the variance is consistent with Plan Winnipeg and any applicable secondary plan does not create a substantial adverse effect on the amenities, use, safety, and convenience of the adjoining property and adjacent area, including an area separated from the property by a street or waterway, is the minimum modification of the zoning bylaw required to relieve the injurious effect of the zoning bylaw on the applicant's property and is compatible with the area with which the property to be affected is situated. Supporting reasons, this privacy argument, I mean, I'm thinking about neighbors talking to neighbors over decks, over fences, and I don't see it as a necessary negative. And so like, I'm thinking about a popular series out there right now. I'm not going to name names. I don't want the city getting into copyright issues. But I think it's okay if you can see your neighbors and talk to your neighbors. So perhaps I'm not personally in line with our policies as they pertain to this type of development. But I think it's okay this time again.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
And that's carried.
I move the appeal be allowed and the decision of the Director of Planning Property Development be not concurred in.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I move the variance order DAV 218682 2025B be confirmed.
Yes.
All those in favor?
Aye. And I move that the public hearing with respect to this appeal be concluded.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Go ahead, Peter.
Please note that the committee has made a final decision on this matter, which is not subject to further appeal.
Moving on to 3133 St. Mary's Road.
That's
Go ahead.
right. Item 3 is an appeal against the decision of the Director of Planning, Property and Development to reject the variance for 3133 St. Mary's Road under file DAV 153818A/2025.
Did I rule on this?
No, this was a director approval.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, so we'll head it over to the public service once more.
Yes, you may leave. If you are done, you don't have to stick around
Okay.
after your hearing's been done. Yeah, that means, you're more than welcome to stay. Okay, thank you. We like your company.
Not detention.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. Okay. Sorry, go ahead.
The subject site is on the east side of St. Mary's Road, north of Forbes Road, in the St. Mattel South Perimeter neighborhood within the Riel community. The property is 132 feet wide by 990 feet deep and is approximately 678 square feet in area, 3 acres. The applicant is proposing to construct a detached garage 38 feet by 52 feet with a floor area of 1,976 square feet to the rear of their existing single-family dwelling. This concludes my summary. However, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Gonna be a commercial building?
No.
Residential.
Okay, so,
And
that, 800.
they want to build it.
What's that percentage difference? That looks like it's double the size, right?
It's more than double the permitted allowable
use.
amount.
Detached So that's,
More than 2 times the maximum permitted square footage.
what are some of the other alternatives, like,
When a property is zoned RR2 or RR5, there is a concession given of about 1,600 square feet, so about double the allowable for these large lots. Planning understands they need the room for their yard equipment, overall, it's a larger scale, they need more room. So I did offer them a smaller size, around 1,600. That was not going to meet their needs. They proceeded with this.
I mean, at what point is a house and a garage a garage? Like, should this be a secondary suite application? I guess maybe that could actually be a question. At what point is a house and a garage a garage? For the public service? I thought it was rhetorical, but then I realized it could be a literal question. Yeah.
So the existing property itself is 1,728 square feet in area according to assessment. So allowing a secondary accessory building to be larger than the principal building on the site is definitely not consistent with planning.
And today's hearing is about variance for garage. It wouldn't be about a variance for secondary suite.
If this was a secondary suite, it would be a completely different conversation.
Yeah, right, I can understand, but it would be a conditional use regarding a secondary suite.
Most likely, it would also trigger variances for size. A secondary suite's only allowed to be up to 850 approximately square feet in area.
Okay, well, this one's different. Somebody wants to build a garage twice the size of their house. And we are in a city, I think. In terms of aesthetics and planning, like garages, secondary structures that are not inhabited, that are twice the size of inhabited structures in residential areas. That's not a trend I would like to see throughout the city, and I'm perhaps thinking like a planner right now. Anyway, I'm good.
okay, any other questions of the admin? Okay, let's move on to the appellant.
All right, so I have
think like a planner.
Jason and Joanne Klippenstein. If you want to appear together, you may. If you want to appear individually, also do that.
But individually, only the applicant, the appellant can come and speak.
You're both appellants.
Are they both appellants or
Yes.
they both have an opportunity to come back?
All right, so if we go together, we have 5 minutes total.
Correct. Or if you go in tandem, we can do 10 minutes.
Well, go on. You never know.
Morning,
Morning,
welcome.
thank you. I'm Jason Klippenstein, the owner at 3133 St. Mary's Road. We're asking for a variance to build a storage building of 1,976 square feet. Yes, there's a couple the 880 square feet for which is a city bylaw for our area, I don't feel is even should be part of the conversation. When I built my house, I inquired to the city what my side yard I needed for a side yard on a 3-acre property. And they told me 4 feet. I says, I think you're wrong. There's no way you can build a house 4 feet from a property line. It was then discovered after some research that there was a different set of rules for the St. Vital secondary plan, and my side yard had to increase to 25 feet. And I thought that was more realistic. And to Mr. Allard's comments about he doesn't want a trend of these buildings being twice the size, twice the 880 square feet in the city. Our whole area is, I would say, rural. It's all RR5. They're 5-acre lots. We have a 3-acre lot. There's some 2-acre lots. So I wanted to build a building so I can have all my toys or whatever, boats. I have an RV, a converted bus, which I've had a bylaw officer tell me I can't have parked outside on my 3 acres. So I have the bylaw officer knocking on my door, also telling me I can't park a boat outside on my 3 acres. Talking to planning, they say, yes, you can have a boat on your 3 acres. You just can't have it in the front yard. I'm trying to build a building. I can put everything inside and I won't have a bylaw officer knocking on my door. I came up with 1976 square feet. I have a current temporary building there, which I would like to build around. And that's how I came up with the unique number of 1976. I can disassemble the whole building once the new building is up. I will disassemble some of the front of it in order to do this. I didn't come up with a 40 by 50 and even 2,000 square foot. I'm asking for what I need to build around my existing building, which is a temporary structure bolt together, which I'd like to take out. I will take down once this new structure is built. The fact that this is bigger than my house, which is 1,728 square feet, I don't know that really should have too much to do with it. I could have built a 2,500 square foot house, but I didn't. I chose a smaller house. I want to put my boats. I'm fully exposed down Forbes Road, which someone can theft in the area. My backyard isn't unique like everyone else's backyard where they have to come through the front yard. They can come right off Forbes Road and take whatever they want and exit. As far as the 1,600, I'm still not sure where that number comes from. There's multiple buildings in the area bigger than 2,000 square feet. I'm not going to go giving you addresses and tattling on neighbors. I have a friend who built his house the same year I built mine. He built a 40 by 50, didn't even have a variance for oversized, and that was in 2016.
Non-compliant?
No, he got a permit from the city. He did it with his house and at the same time. And I couldn't do that at the same time. So I put up a temporary structure, which I thought I was allowed to do. And I found out you need a building permit for that. So that rather than go through a whole process on a temporary building, I've chosen to go with a new building. And size-wise, I don't think it stands out in the area. But my biggest thing for the size would be, again, not having to move everything out to another property while I construct the building.
Okay, any questions?
Well,
Follow-up questions?
Madam Chair, I think somebody asked the question, like, is this a commercial application? And rights go with the land. So the current use may be for a homeowner to use their things and close their things to be conforming to bylaws. But as rights go with the land, like what happens when the next person comes in and it becomes a commercial operation? That would be the question for the applicant or the proponent. The question for yourself, sir.
We plan on being here. We don't plan on moving. My wife will probably come tell you how much she's invested and how much she's in this property with planting trees, trying to make this a very desirable place. We bought it from my cousin and he used it for commercial use. The neighbors there was complaints against the property. I have full support of all my neighbors. I have neighbors from Forbes Road stop in and tell me what they love, what we've done with the yard, and that we have a real commitment to making it a better place. And everything I do there is with my neighbors in mind, and would I want to look at this? So I feel it's way better I've talked to my neighbors. It's way better to talk to them, to have their approval before I proceed with anything.
So follow-up question to the bylaw officer that came to your property about the RV and the boat. He's told you that you're not allowed to park it where?
I'm not allowed to have it on my property anywhere.
And he had suggested that it need to be enclosed.
No, he said I need to take it and I bring it into storage somewhere. And when I told planning this, that's why I chose the side, they said that wasn't true. They said, you're just not allowed to have your boat in the front yard. And you can't have your RV in the front yard. You can have it in the backyard. You can't have it in the front yard. So I just want to, if you can't see it, if I won't have no one knocking on my doors if I store my stuff inside a building for theft and for, I guess my frustration is we live on 3 acres. It's all RR5. It's all rural residential, but the city bylaw is the same whether I live on Siskin Bay in Winnipeg or I live on 3 acres. You're applying the same bylaws, which I understand is there's very few places like this included in the city of Winnipeg. Like we pay city taxes. We don't have city water. We don't have, we have to have septic fields. We don't have bus service. So we get treated like we're part of the city of Winnipeg when it comes to bylaws. The front portion of my property is commercial. My neighbor's property is commercial. So I live on 3 acres and he's allowed to build right on the property line because it's commercial to commercial in the front. And that makes sense when you're right in the city of Winnipeg. But when you're out in the country, you're on acreages here, it's not the same. And I just don't believe that the bylaws should be exactly the same for our property on 3 acres.
Like, Madam Chair, through you, the applicant. So this was a business operation before you buying it?
My cousin had his son live there and he parked his trucks there.
Okay.
It's zone commercial.
It's zone commercial or RR5?
It's dual.
Or PP. Ooh, wow.
So,
Interesting.
you know,
Okay. This is an odd one.
yeah.
Do I get a turn?
Any other questions?
I'm just I'm just very conflicted about this. I'm not sure how to
Well,
get to a decision point.
we'll get more clarity with you when you have an opportunity to speak with admin, okay? But let's move on to the next
Yes.
delegate. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, our next appellant is Joanne Klippenstein.
All right. My name's Joanne. I'm Jason's wife and one of the owners as well of 3133. So he will have given you a really different idea about this variance. I just want to start out, and I've read this before. This is a little book. It's called A Pattern Language. There's one in circulation in our city library. But I've used this when we designed the property and we designed the home. And I just want you to think about this as background music when I tell you a little bit more about why we chose what we did. No pattern is an isolated entity. Each pattern can exist in the world only to the extent that is supported by other patterns. The larger patterns in which it is embedded, the patterns of the same size that surround it, and the smaller patterns which are embedded in it. This is a fundamental view of the world. It says that when you build a thing, you cannot merely build that thing in isolation, but must also repair the world around it and within it, so that the larger world at that one place becomes more coherent and more whole. So like Jason alluded to earlier, we chose that size because we don't want to have to empty the building. It would be nice just to be able to build around it. But to the language in the variance order, I guess that's kind of what I feel is so inconsistent. So I think what we could do is go back and just like you were talking earlier, the bylaws for some areas of the city will have to be won't be redone till 2028. I think that this St. Vital Perimeter South Secondary Plan bylaw is also one of those things that maybe has to be looked at again, because the spirit and the plan of this bylaw to encourage the conservation of the land for general agricultural activities, to encourage the use of the land for general agricultural activities on large holdings. All of this. There's even a section on protecting potable groundwater. So when the variance order comes back and it says that what we want to build is injurious to the neighboring properties, I don't understand how that can be. The neighbors are all in agreement. If you drive through the neighborhood, there's several buildings that are similar. If you drive past down the roads, Forbes, Fraser, there's several buildings that are similar in size, scope, design, that are agricultural and in nature. So the neighbors are in support of it. I don't understand how, even if it is large, it still is compatible with the 3 acres.
And that's what I have. We still have another minute and a half. Well, I think that's part of again, maybe I should just reiterate, maybe what needs to happen is that whole secondary plan needs to be looked at again and sort of establish something so that there can be some continuity for the community. It does feel like there's a lot of dichotomy between the messages that we get from the city about what's allowed or what's not allowed in the area. The language regarding it's going to impact the neighboring properties negatively. It's not consistent with the applicable secondary plan. Well, I would argue that it is. This says it does create a substantial adverse effect on the amenities, safe use and safety. Well, just recently, the city is gambling with our water supply there. There's whole deforestation across the street, and they're potentially putting our water supply at risk. And that's okay. And yet building a storage building that's slightly larger could potentially used as commercial in the future. All of these are what ifs. They're not facts. The facts is that right now there's a lot of damage being done to the community, potential damage. And so to ask for something that's reasonable, that no one is contesting, to me seems reasonable. Any other questions, follow-up questions?
Well, I do. Yeah. Madam Chair, now that we know it's commercial, just through you to the applicant, do you plan on using this? It sounds to me like you have commercial rights.
We only have, the C2 is only to a certain spot. It's only the front of the property. It's not to the back. So there's a commercial property at the front. These two properties that maybe you can see are very long and narrow. They were once 5 acres, and at one point in the past, they were divvied up into 1.5 and 3.5. The front is C2. So we could only build commercial property on the front of the property, which is, I guess at some point, the city was planning on having all of St. Mary's commercial, right? But that didn't, there are some commercial properties. There's several actually along St. Mary's that are deemed that are half C2 and half are R5 in the back. We don't want to build a shop in the front. This is our home. I've established a large flower bed, trees. I've got over 50 species of trees I'm trying to reestablish. I want to make it a biodiverse yard. I in no way plan to put a commercial property on the front. It ruins it for me. I want to put it, I want to put something, if I'm going to build anything, it's going to go to the back. But it is a unique, unusual property, and most bylaw officers, when they visit the property, they don't understand the zoning at all. They apply in blanket fashion the bylaws meant for a cul-de-sac in Fort Richmond. They come with that frame of reference and apply it to 3 acres. And it's really difficult to get them to wrap their heads around what would make sense, what would be appropriate. And again, I guess I just reiterate, maybe the secondary plan has to be looked at again and reviewed, and so that there can be some continuity to the community.
Just
Question?
follow up, yeah, so what is your understanding of the administration's concern about adverse effect on the neighborhood? Like, do you have any understanding for what that might be, like where they're coming from?
No, is our Hayes in attendance? Or Hare, whoever planning, I would have loved to ask. What exactly does that mean? I'd like to know specifically what that means. We aren't removing any trees. We're not impacting any land. We're already building on an established gravel pad. We're not taking down trees, shrubbery. We're not impacting the water supply. We're in no way diminishing the environment in any way. And so I'm just wondering why that language is used. To me, we built a passive solar small home, 1,728 square feet. We could have built an estate, but we didn't. We chose something small and compatible for the rural community, what we felt would fit in. I've planted a lot of trees. I have very limited use of herbicides. I will spend hours picking 5 feet thistles because I don't want to damage the land. So I don't understand when he says creates a substantial adverse effect. I don't know what that means. I'd like to know what it means. Sorry, I get really passionate about this. My apologies. I'm not angry. I'm just passionate.
I wanted,
We're pretty much used to that.
Okay, I'm not angry in any way.
yeah, no, and Madam Chair, I perhaps it's like urban planning rules being applied in RR5 C2 land category. Like my instinct was like in the ward that I represent, this would probably be not good to all of a sudden garages are twice the size of houses. So I'll ask the administration for more information.
Seeing no further questions, thank you. You will also have an opportunity to come back and rebut on information.
I'll just check with the gallery if there's anyone here who has not registered who wishes to speak in support of this appeal.
Sure.
Anyone who wishes to speak in opposition, or anyone for information? Seeing none, Madam Chairperson.
Questions of the administration. I think you had one, Councillor Allard, or Councillor Gilroy, you had one?
No, I'm fine.
Okay.
I think it's just like this is like one of these cases where you can't refer community character is not a good reference because it's like all over the place. Anyway, I think I'm good.
Okay, someone spoke of the delegate spoke of the secondary plan bylaw. Maybe kind of highlight a little bit of that, just to kind of help me understand where the secondary bylaw lands with a structure like this.
The St. Patel South perimeter doesn't speak to this. It's a broader plan in place, mostly to regulate the subdivision of these large agricultural lots.
Okay.
So
And the potable water.
exactly
issue.
the
Yeah.
variance is directly from the zoning bylaw. It has, I mentioned the St. Patel because it falls in that area, but it's not, it doesn't.
Has nothing to do with
Has no impact
structures
on-
or,
No.
okay. Okay, so when zoning bylaws are applied, it's a city zoning bylaw. That's
For the entire city. So any property that was zoned RR5 would have this imposed. And that's why earlier I had indicated that for these larger lots, planning does take that into consideration, which is why we support up to about 1,600 square feet. So had they amended the plan to be around 1,600, I would have supported it and we wouldn't have been here today.
So help me understand, how come we have one department that come out and mention that, you know, they're not allowed to have RVs or boats on property. But then now we're hearing from PP&D that RVs and boats are allowed on properties, they just have to be on the back. Could we get clarification
Yeah,
on that?
previously, the zoning bylaw regulated the number of vehicles and the types of vehicles that were on the property. Once the neighborhood livability bylaw became into fruition, it took over some of those items. So what you have is a bylaw enforcement officer dealing with the neighborhood livability bylaw, coming to a residence and saying, you're not allowed recreational vehicles during these particular times of the year. Although the zoning bylaw does say, yes, you can have those types of vehicles if they are either hidden from view or in the rear yard.
So when you say hidden from view, could that not mean the RV could be beside the building, not inside the building, could be beside the building, kind of in the back, tucked away in a corner with a fence wrapped around it?
Yeah,
I'm just throwing out.
Yeah, if it was in the rear yard and screened appropriately, then it could probably be allowed to stay there. There are many properties in the city that have their recreational vehicles in their rear yards during the off season. That they're there. We do recommend that you put it inside of a structure, because if we drive by for inspection purposes and we can't see it, we can't flag it. But if we do see it, so bylaw enforcement officers, if they see a recreational vehicle in a rear yard, they can flag that.
What about more like so you would need 1,600 square feet. What about like a canopy carport style that kind of hangs off? And you still need a permit for that, right?
You would still need a permit. Anything more than 108 square feet that has a roof would require a permit. So, if they wanted to do a combination of garage and carport, again, around the 1,600.
Has to stay within the 1,600.
Has to stay around the 1,600, yeah.
Okay. What about those, I guess like the canopy style? That's the same thing. You would require a permit for.
Like a canopy garage?
Yeah.
So unfortunately, those are not permitted by code. You can't get an engineer to stamp off on snow loads or wind loads. So those are actually illegal in the city, although they are sold by retailers. It is a buyer beware situation, and it is a buyer beware installation as well. If we come by and see that you've installed larger than 10 by 10 and it is functioning as a garage, you will be asked to remove it or to proceed with the engineering, which unfortunately can't be obtained.
So, Madam Chair, are we, the difference in what would have been approved by the planning department and what is being applied for is what?
About just under 400 square feet of difference.
Okay, so we're not talking about, which is proportionally 20% difference.
I would have done 1660, 1620 to 1600 isn't a hard set number. If you come with a proposal in that area, it will be considered.
It's just a little bit over what you would.
It's about 300 over what I would have.
Okay. All right.
What's the percentage of that 300 over?
Now you want proration.
Yeah, I like ratios, percentages. Can you do the math for me?
Does put things in perspective.
It's about 12%.
You're ready for questions, Madam Chair.
Okay, well, I think the applicants have an opportunity.
Oh, right, sorry, yeah.
If they want to.
If they wanted to, yeah.
Is it our turn for?
Is there any other questions for the admin? No other questions? Okay, so we'll bring back the appellants to come back and speak in rebuttal to the information they heard and not new information.
Can we go together or do you prefer a separate?
It's up to you guys.
together.
You can come together if you want, yeah. Then you'll have a total of 5 minutes together, okay? Go ahead.
I just wanted to respond to the comment that the bylaw officers, if they don't see it, if it's enclosed, that's what they're looking for. They don't want to see it. And that's what I'm trying to do. The tarp building was an option, as she did mention, but much cheaper, much better way to go. But I'm in the same spot. I'd be asked to take it down. I can't get a building permit for it. I guess So,
My turn?
Yeah.
Well, I would disagree. I know you said that the bylaws have nothing to do with the secondary plan. But what is the point of the St. Vital Perimeter South Secondary Plan bylaw if it in some way can't be applied? I mean, certainly the spirit and intent of this bylaw is to somewhat govern what kind of activities go on down there, right? So when you say the size of building that we can build, that has nothing to do with this. Well, no, there's nothing specifically that outlines the size and scope and design of what we can build. But certainly, I mean, several points point to it was meant to be farmland. Like, I'm not sure it's the conservation of land for agricultural activities, short of noisy, obnoxious, such as livestock or poultry operations. Well, that makes sense to me. But to live as an agrarian, as a person that's working the land and doing country things, that requires equipment. And we're getting a lot of mixed messages even now about how to hide our things so that we don't we can avoid being the target of the bylaw officer as he drives down St. Mary's Road. I don't know. I prefer just to build something and have all of it there, and not to mention the safety and security of all the belongings. We could store it outside. We're an easy jaunt off the highway. They can take stuff and they'd be gone in minutes. So I would prefer to lock things up, have things out of sight, and then nobody can come back and question us. I don't want somebody coming back in 5 years' time, which has happened, questioning us about things that have already been sort of agreed upon. So I would really disagree strongly with your idea that the bylaws don't apply to this. They absolutely do. This was intended to set the tone for that community. And maybe this again just speaks to, we need to have this rehashed. We need to find out what works in here and what doesn't work in here.
I just, in conclusion, I want to say I'm not trying to beat any bylaws. I respect bylaws. They're there to help the neighbors get along with each other when they can't do it, when they can't have a face-to-face meeting, or if someone is unreasonable. That's what, in my view, what bylaws are there to help neighbors live together.
That's the end of your presentation. You got a minute and a half. Anything else you want to add?
Good, thank you.
You're good?
I'd like to know more about that book, Madam Chair.
Yeah.
Pretty sure I can like go check the library.
It's too quoted if I brought it along, but it speaks, it means make decisions in isolation. The community is a community. And I'm just sitting here listening to the other, the properties before me. It did humble me a bit and highlight the challenges that we all want to live in community, but we all want our own way still, right? Mm-hmm. And that's your challenge. And
that is the challenge.
So I can appreciate that after being number 3 on the list today. It's not easy.
Welcome to politics.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
hence the quote.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate your presentation. Right. I will entertain motions. I'm just going to go to the page here. Page 3. Go ahead.
I move that the report of the Winnipeg Public Service be taken as read.
All in favor?
Aye.
That the receipt of public representations be concluded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
That in accordance with subsection 2473, the City of Winnipeg Charter, the variance is consistent with Plan Winnipeg, and any applicable secondary plan does not create a substantial adverse effect on the amenities, use, safety, and convenience of the adjoining property and adjacent area, including area separated by the property by a street or waterway, and is a minimum modification of zoning bylaw required to relieve the injurious effect of the zoning bylaw on the applicant's property, and is compatible with the area in which the property to be affected is situating. My supporting reasons are that this is already, it's a very large property. It's in a rural setting. It is zoned partly commercial. And so I just feel that not all bylaws fit in exactly where we want them. But in this case, I think this is a reasonable request for the size of the property and the area in which it's situated.
Okay. Anything to add? No? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's carried.
And that the appeal be allowed and the decision of the Director of Planning and Property Development not be concurred in.
Favor?
Aye.
That's carried.
And that the variance order DAV 1538182025B be cancelled.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
And that the public hearing with respect to this appeal be concluded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And that's carried. Right?
Please note that the committee has made a final decision on this matter, which is not subject to further appeal.
I'm just gonna request a quick 5-minute bio break and we'll be back at 10 or just let's go 11 o'clock, okay? Okay. Good morning and welcome back to the Appeals Committee for November 12th, 2025. We're moving on to item number 4, which is an appeal to a variance at 951 Portage Avenue. So Peter, if you can walk us through.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. Item 4 is an appeal against the decision of the Director of Planning, Property and Development to approve a variance for 951 Portage Avenue under file DAV 197637A/2025C. So I'll hand it over to our public administration to give us an overview on this application.
Thank you. So the subject property is located on the north side of Portage Avenue between Lipton Street and Banning Street in the St. Matthews neighborhood of the Daniel McIntyre Ward. The property is located within the urban mixed-use corridor policy area as identified in Complete Communities 2.0 and is zoned C2, the PDO1 malls and corridors, which is intended to allow for greater as-of-right entitlements within select mall sites and along select sections of corridors throughout the city. The property is approximately 23,000 square feet in area and currently contains 2 commercial buildings and a parking area. The applicant intends to construct a mixed-use building with commercial uses on the ground floor and 85 units on the upper floors, residential units on the upper floors. The building would be 6 stories in height, roughly 74 feet to the top of the parapet, include up to 5 commercial units with floor-to-ceiling windows at ground floor facing Portage Avenue, have a rear yard of 20 feet to the rear lane, have a 4-foot front yard setback to the ground floor. The proposal also includes covered parking access from the rear lane and is screened from view by landscape buffers and fences. And a total of 28 parking stalls with 43 secure indoor bicycle parking stalls are proposed. The variances being applied for are to the malls and corridors PDO and are for the ability to allow a ground floor height of 12.25 feet instead of the required 14 feet and to vary the bird-friendly glazing requirements. The Urban Planning Division is supportive of these variances. And I understand the appeal letter submitted indicates that they are not supportive of the proposed number of parking stalls. With respect to this concern, the number of parking stalls is not one of the variances required for this development. The general section of the zoning bylaw actually allows for 0 required parking along this particular portion of Portage Avenue. Malls and Corridors PDO defers to this general section of the zoning bylaw. So as such, 0 parking stalls are technically required for this proposal, and the proponent is providing 28 vehicle parking stalls and 43 indoor secure bike parking stalls. With that, I'll conclude my introduction and happy to answer any questions.
Do you know if there's any car share?
No car share proposed with this application.
This falls under the malls and corridors?
It does.
Okay. So what they're proposing is because they're doing some varying of what you'd mentioned, they're varying some stuff here?
Yeah, the ground
What are they
floor,
varying?
so
Sorry?
the at-grade commercial is required to have these 14-foot ceilings. They're proposing 12.25.
Ceilings?
Yeah,
Oh, okay. Ceilings? Instead of 14?
correct.
Okay. And what's the other one they're varying?
The bird-friendly glazing.
Okay,
Um,
what are they varying that?
they've, well,
Here, Janice Luke's.
yeah,
here.
with their application, they proposed no bird-friendly glazing. However, a condition of the approval on the variance is that they are required to provide an alternative equivalency, and I understand the applicant has worked with the administration to identify an acceptable alternative, and they will be coming forward with that.
So just the 2?
That's right.
Okay. Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
All right, I don't have
Sorry, yes,
anyone
go ahead.
registered. So I'll check with the gallery. Is Dana Robbins here? The appellant? No. Is Matt Sibinel here? No. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak in support of this appeal? Anyone in opposition to this appeal? Or for information? Seeing none.
Were they notified of that?
I'd be happy to move them.
I just want to know what they're gonna do instead of the glazing.
Yeah. And Councillor Lukes is big proponent on.
Yeah.
We're gonna
The bird
have a
friendly.
prorated reduction in feral cat population, like, we're gonna save the birds.
I understand. So there's a number of issues. I guess sourcing the correct type of windows has been proven to be problematic. This issue has been raised on a number of applications for people coming forward with the Malls and Corridors PDO, and the applicant identified that once sourcing the actual product, it was going to add an additional $125,000 to the project. So they've said that it's not viable. There's an alternative solution that they've identified. It's actually sort of an adhesive that applies on the inside of the window rather than the exterior.
Stickers.
Yeah, and is effective, to a similar degree to deter birds. We have heard this, as I mentioned, on a number of other instances, and it is something that we may be looking at amending, bringing forward as an amendment to the Malls and Corridors PDO.
And just, right. How do we ensure the stickers stick and aren't removed? Because that's, the water waste department would say,
Right.
that's not acceptable because it's not a structure.
Yeah,
not enforcement.
either it's incorporated on the exterior side of the window or it's on the interior. I guess it's a matter of enforcement coming out to check and ensure that it maintains in place as proposed with the plans. So if there was a concern raised or we were notified, then we would have the ability to go and double check and confirm that it conformed to the plans that they submitted.
It's
I guess
also
I'm
a
just not-
6-story building. It's not a,
I just, yeah,
It's not a big
it's not,
tower.
it's not a big tower, so.
I'm just not, I'm not,
You're not convinced?
just, unless it's a condition of approval, like,
And it is.
and then.
Oh, the specifics
Well, like,
of it.
if it's baked into the window, then it's baked into the window. If it's not, then tenants could remove it. And then we would have no way of putting them back, and we would have no enforcement mechanism. If you add the window, I presumably you can't just do that because these windows are all like manufactured certain specifications, like R whatever equivalents with like gases inside. It's complicated.
Do we know if it goes on the outside or the inside?
I understand it goes on the inside.
Just how do we know? How will we know over time that it's being done?
I guess.
Like the window guarantees it because then the window is there. It's installed.
Oh, the window
This
is
alternate
actually baked
solution
into the
is
window.
cheap and probably the right thing to do, but the thing is to like ensure that it's actually done.
So is the bird friendly windows on just the 85 units or sorry, just on the Portage Avenue side windows, I'm assuming, or is it on also in the back lane?
It's required to be applied to the exterior glass surface of all exteriors, up to 16 meters above grade.
We have public reporting back on this particular thing.
That I'm not sure of. Again, I think this is something that will be coming forward as an amendment proposed under Schedule AB.
I remember when we debated it, there was something else that was on it in the multi-port.
No, I thought it was interesting. Okay, well, I mean, I just like I'd like to explore this policy issue further if there's no means of this. Oh, I know there are means, like we could do all sorts of things.
But at this
Here.
point in juncture, are you acceptable of the alternative?
Well, like caveats, I don't know. There are tools out there. We approve property, caveats. I know that there isn't enforcement, but at least like when they're like moving the property around from owner to owner, they would have to check on the caveats. And that could be like a condition of sale, at least.
Is this a condition before you issue permits?
That's right. It's on the variance. It's not something that would be caveated on.
Ensuring it remains in that state. Can we caveat it to say any sale of the building will confirm that the stickers are back on the windows?
I don't believe with this application that we can caveat it on title.
Well, not trying.
We're not entering into a zoning agreement or certain agreement. We don't.
Okay.
That's usually the typical mechanism that we would apply.
So what are we, so we're litigating, so the windows. What are we litigating today?
Well, we're litigating the windows and the ground floor height of the commercial space.
So it is germane to the discussion,
It's germane. The appeal that was registered was with respect to parking,
which is not germane.
not germane.
Okay, so basically we're not, this isn't supposed to be about windows.
But I'm happy to move this if you want me to start.
Yeah, no, I'll work with colleagues to address this in the future.
Yeah.
Let's do that. Okay, let's move on to page 3. Okay, go ahead, Counselor.
I move that the report of the Winnipeg Public Service be taken as read.
All those in favor?
Aye.
That the receipt of public representations be concluded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
That in accordance with subsection 2473, the City of Winnipeg Charter, the variance is consistent with Plan of Winnipeg and any applicable secondary plan. It does not create a substantial adverse effect of the amenities, use, safety, and convenience of the adjoining property adjacent area, including an area separated by the property by a street or waterway, and is a minimum modification of the zoning bylaw required to relieve the injurious effect of the zoning bylaw on the applicant's property and is compatible with the area in which the property to be affected is situating. My sort of supportive reasons is this is exactly what we want to see along these corridors. I do feel that the height is not as high as others to worry about the bird friendly, even though I do think we should talk about this in the future, but I think this is a really good project moving forward. And of course, the appeal was towards the parking, which really isn't part of the equation for for what we're discussing today. And this will be a good project for the overall community and getting close to the downtown.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
And that the appeal be denied and the decision of the Director of Planning and Property Development be concurred in.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
And that the variance DAV 197637/2025C be confirmed.
Yeah, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And that the public hearing with respect to this appeal be concluded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Please note that the committee has made a final decision on this matter, which is not subject to further appeal. Item 5 is an appeal against the decision of the Director of Property, Planning and Development to approve a variance for 132 Arden Avenue under file DAV 192913A/2025B. Members of the committee, please note communications were received in support and opposition and with respect to this appeal, which has been distributed to all members of the committee. I'll hand it over to Public Administration for an overview.
The subject property at 132 Arden Avenue is located in the Pulbury neighborhood in the Riel ward. It is 65 feet wide, 220 feet deep, and approximately 14,415 square feet. It is zoned R1M or residential single-family medium and falls under the Established Neighborhoods Recent Communities designation. There's a 1.5-story, 1,708 square feet single-family dwelling built in 1948 with a detached garage on the property. The proposal is to subdivide the property into 2 lots, one with frontage on Arden Avenue with the existing building and garage, and the other facing William Knott Cove. The property facing William Knott Cove does not have frontage on a public road, which is required by the Winnipeg zoning bylaw. The applicant is seeking to vary the requirement to have frontage on a public street. The front of the property is blocked from accessing William Knott Cove by 2 small parcels of city-owned land. The applicant has entered into an easement agreement with the city to allow for a driveway to be constructed on the city-owned land, providing access to William Knott Cove. The subject site is surrounded by R1M zoning and single-family houses. The proposed lots meet the minimum width and area requirements of the R1M zone and fit with the existing character of the neighborhood, as similar backsplit properties to what is proposed are located immediately west of the property. A rudimentary drawing for a single-family dwelling has been provided for the new lot. With an easement agreement in place to access a public road and no additional modifications of the zoning bylaw required, the Urban Planning and Design Division supports the application for a variance for a property with no frontage on a public road as it fits the character and context of the neighborhood. That concludes the overview from the public service. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Off the public roads, or no frontage off of William or no frontage off of Arden
On William.
on William? So what do you mean no frontage?
So the property has frontage on Arden Avenue, and then it runs all the way through back to William Knott Cove, and it would have frontage on William Knott Cove, but there's a small parcel of city-owned land in between the edge of the property line and the street.
Okay, so that means they would need, like the garage would be in the front of the house, right? And then their backyard, I guess, is like a tucked away kind of property, right?
Yeah, it's on the corner of the cove, and yeah, it would be a front access garage on the front, consistent with the rest of the street.
Any other questions, clarification for the administration?
So so I guess the city isn't going to sell the land, that they're gonna keep the land, so it would have to be an agreement.
Mhm. Yeah, of the two properties, one of them has a water line running through it, so the city wants to hold on to that land.
And
Questions, yeah, Counselor?
summary for in the public administration's opinion, the appellants, I mean, I don't know if that's the appropriate question, but like why are we here? Why are the appellants there? What's the crux of the issue?
So the appeal letters that we received addressed concerns around parking, snow clearance, community character, a light located at that location. And that is what the appealing letters were about.
Can the light be moved to a different location?
The light can be moved if need be, but also looking at the location, the light is likely okay where it is. It likely won't need to be moved.
Okay. I guess we'll just hear from
Yeah, well, we'll hear from the residents, any other modifications that could be considered other than moving the lights. Like I hear that the urban plan division is okay with moving the lights, so the opinion of the plan division would be okay where it is. Are there any other ideas in terms of the other issues that are raised that we might consider as counselors?
Yeah, so the property meets all the requirements of, the zoning. It's got the minimum area, it's got the minimum width. And the only issue with the property that triggered the variance is that it doesn't have the frontage on a street for the newly created lot. And because there's an easement agreement with the city in place to provide that connection to the property, we have seen no issues with it.
Okay.
With the area, with the parking, just so everyone can hear the discussion, is there going to be ample parking? Because it looks like it has to kind of go in a little bit. It's going to be a bit of a driveway, right? Will there be will people be able to park? Will they have their own parking, I guess?
Like on the driveway?
Yeah, because it's going to be a driveway. I think it's going to be like how much parking is going to be on there.
That would be entirely dependent on whatever ends up being built there, which we don't have a specific driveway plans or anything like that yet.
Okay, we'll move on. Any other questions, clarification? No? Okay, let's move on to the delegates, please.
All right, starting with our appellant, Stephanie Corshane. Stephanie, if you're here, you would like to grab a seat at the end there, we'll put 5 minutes on the clock for you.
Yeah.
No, the appellant speak first.
I'm okay. My name is Stephanie Crushane and I live at 45 William Knott Cove, so I'm a little bit further down the street. And I think there's a large group of us that have written in and also are present here today. We are hoping that we could deter the city from allowing this easement on the frontage. We were kind of hoping that maybe there would have been some discussions with everybody to talk about if the neighborhood was okay with any of selling of the easement, the agreement. Because I think that there would be some of us that would probably have offered to buy that or have that easement as well. Or even to buy that land. It was never a plan to have another house in there. I know that my neighbors here are going to explain more about the actual driveway going in and how it's going to look on the cove. It will not match the way that things look on the cove. The house can't possibly be facing the same way as all the other houses on the cove. It's already kind of a tight space. We see the garbage trucks, any kind of emergency trucks that come in, they all have to do like a 4-point turnaround. It's a pretty tight area. What else did I want to bring up? 5 minutes left. That's right, I don't. It was more about the whole Winnipeg zoning bylaw that requires everybody to have frontage, and we all do. So we would kind of hope that we could keep that and that there wouldn't be easements granted without talking to the other residents that live right there, and it does affect them. So I'll let them speak about that though. So I think that's it for me.
I guess, Madam Chair, through you.
Okay, yeah.
So,
Questions for
so it's
the delegate?
the delegation. So, like the argument I've heard so far is the same that you're addressing. That the only condition that is missing for this to have all of the land rights to build a house is access to frontage to the property, which from public service is addressed. So if that is the argument against building this, like why not? And I I know that you said more than that. You also said offering the land. I heard from the public service, the land is not for sale. The land is required for because there's city infrastructure under it, so easements might be required. And you mentioned that maybe other people may want access to the land as an easement. Like, what kind of accesses would anyone want as an easement?
Well, I am going to let Rick address that because he lives right there, but he does access his backyard from that side. But like you guys said, there's 2 pieces of land there. One of them has a water line on it that the city wants to hang on to. And then the other one is the one that we're talking about for the easement. But it is a very tight space. If you look at the photos, there's only really 15 feet from driveway to driveway. And I guess building a smaller driveway, it's not going to look the same as everybody else's. It's going to have to do quite a tight turn to get into that other lot. So I don't see how it can keep with the characteristics of the neighborhood. That's for sure something. So yes, if they wanted to build a house, of course we can't stop them from building a house on their lot, subdividing, but what we would really love is if they could access it from Arden Road as well, stay on Arden Road and have access that way. They don't have an attached garage. It's a detached garage that's with the house on the front. And I don't see why they couldn't modify that and find a way through and stay on Arden Road. And again, if this easement gets approved, then I guess we want to know exactly kind of what's going to be built there, make sure it fits on the right angle, looking like it's part of the cove.
So, Madam Chair, through you, do you know why I can ask the public service and the others why this is the favored approach relative to the approach that you're mentioning?
Why they're favoring coming to 45 William, or sorry.
Yeah, like what's the difference?
Definitely, it's a different kind of. There's probably maybe a little bit less traffic on ours, maybe, but Arden's not that busy of a street either, I don't think.
Okay. And on behalf of the neighbors who aren't here, who would want to make the same presentation?
They are 100% against the easement.
I'm saying
or what are you?
Okay, so Madam Chair, through you to the delegate. If the design were different, would there be opposition in the neighborhood relative to the different design? That would be a different group of people.
I don't understand your question, I guess.
Like right now, you're saying put the thing on someone else's street.
That's a street they bought it on Arden, right? Like that lot isn't part of William Knock.
And you're saying the approach should be on
Arden.
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 That's where their frontage is. That's where they bought the lot.
We'll have to ask them. But
Well,
One more thing that I should mention that I know another
point
neighbor.
order, just order. Madam Chair, I'd like to ask if the delegate has anything else to add.
Sorry, one more thing. Yes. The driveways will be very close together, and I know that we are concerned about actually shoveling the driveway and having somewhere to put the snow because they will be touching almost. So there really won't be much room to even put snow in between to clear the driveway. I'm not sure where we're going to put it in the middle of the cove. So just a thought.
There are drawings available online. Just gonna ask for clarity from our department. Pages 13 and 14 shows pictures of what the house looks like, and I see it looks like a proposed driveway. Is that correct? What I'm looking on page 13? So that document is available to the public. So I'm just looking for clarity, right?
Yeah, so-
Page 13 shows the layout of how the house is gonna look, and I could see it looks like a proposed driveway, what a driveway looks like.
Yeah, so it does have a proposed layout and a proposed driveway. These are more rudimentary drawings. And because of that, we aren't willing to say that that is exactly where a driveway is going to go.
So I'm just seeking clarification, okay? So moving on to the next delegate, thank you.
All right, moving on to those in support of the appeal, I have Ryan Campbell. Ryan, if you'd like to grab a seat.
Hi, my name is Ryan Campbell, 57 William Knott Cove. I guess from my perspective, what has sort of evolved through this last few weeks or month of the situation is it's something that we don't have a lot of clarity. And as you sort of indicate that, rudimentary drawings, we're not sure exactly what a driveway is going to look like. We don't know what an access easement is going to look like. We don't really know what the impacts are going to be. And we're trying to obtain that information to have a better, fuller picture of what is actually going to be happening in our neighborhood. And I guess what we're wanting to really ensure is that whatever does happen is consistent with the character of the neighborhood and what is actually, going to be done. I know it was raised that, there is no frontage and that is a bylaw. So trying to understand why bylaws are sometimes accepted or sometimes there is a variance given. I don't know if there is an understanding of that. I think, sorry, because it's hard to know, like, why would this one have been given a variance where, and listening to some of the earlier ones, completely the opposite, right? You're not allowed to have a bylaw variance on a different size of your deck, but this, we can actually build a road and, change the whole structure or, way we access something on the street. I think from my perspective, one of the things that's really important is I want to make sure that I'm understanding what is actually going to end up being built. And it wasn't until recently that we did receive some plans on the house. I guess I had a concern because there are things that are happening in and around our neighborhood where there's multi-use homes going in on other streets. And that would not be consistent with what is actually happening on our street itself. So I would want to ensure that, there can't be any further variances. If it's single family home only, then that is, I guess, one thing. But if, because we don't have full clarity on what it is, if there was going to be further variances or changes requested, how does that happen? Is that even possible? Or, where does it go from here?
Any questions?
I just wanted to make the comment of the order of the document hierarchy is our Winnipeg Complete Communities, any secondary plan, and then bylaws is like part of zoning. It's like on the bottom. So that's meant to be the hierarchical order of the documents. So I understand. It's not quite a question, but you did ask it in your presentation. Yeah.
So from what I'm hearing is, are you against the subdivision? Like, are you against the home, or are you just seeking some more clarity of what is going to be built there?
I'm not opposed to him putting a home there.
Okay.
What I'm opposed to is the easement that
Right.
goes through our street.
Right.
The easement that's going over the city Winnipeg property.
I'm right across from it.
Yeah.
So I'm not the most impacted by this, but it will be something that I am going to be looking out my front window at. And I don't know what that's going to be. I don't want it to be a parking lot. I don't want it to be just concrete all in front of me when I'm looking out of my front window. And at this point, it's unclear what the easement will grant, like because there's been no clarification yet that I can have obtained that'll, says this is how wide it's going to be. This is how it's going to access. The drawings seem to suggest what the driveway will be, what it's going to look like when it's on the property, but that is set back into, what is the 220 feet deep lot that's coming from Hardin.
We can get some clarity on that.
We also send plan approval to Real if ever we want to go in that direction.
Approval to Real.
That could be done.
Okay.
Like plan approval to Real would mean, Madam Chair, through you to the delegate as some form of a question, public, like it would be a public forum where you could speak to the Real community.
So that was one of the concerns of, and I'll say this, maybe it's on behalf of the committee, but for sure, these signs got posted literally a month ago. And here we are, I'm trying to understand what's going on when there was not a lot of time to ask the questions. It was basically, we were told it's been approved and your only recourse is to try and appeal it. So that's why I'm here today, to get a better understanding of what's going on in my neighborhood.
Yeah. Duly noted. We appreciate those comments. Yeah. And we'll get some more clarity on the easements and probably the plan approval process and what that looks like. Okay. Okay, moving on to our next delegate.
Okay. I do have a number of appellants who did not register. So I just want to go through that list to make sure that we get the appellants first, because Ryan was in support of the appeal, but not an appellant. So Michelle Amsler. All right. Paul Amsler. Would you like to speak, sir? So,
we did register.
Okay.
We did register, just like we never got all the documents that everyone else got. Also, sure. Thank you. Do you want to just fill it in afterwards?
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
Morning.
Good morning. Thank you very much. To echo Ryan's comments, our appeal really is the variance of the road way in. I live at 77 William Knock Cove, so I'm directly adjacent to the property. A lot of the items that were sent in the appeal letter were things that came from myself and Rick Sturzer, who is on the other side of this driveway. Granted, none of you are stewards of that community, so obviously our concerns are concerns of there's children on the street. With the advent of more traffic on the street with another house, there's more vehicles that come in for deliveries. That piece of land has always been used for kids to play on. It's a green space. To the neighborhood, we don't really care, again, that there's a house to be built there. It's the roadway access onto St. Michael's. Already when the individual parks in that tiny little space between Rick's driveway and my driveway, I can't even pull into the driveway with my truck. So in your analysis and approval, you noted that the characteristics of the lot conform to the neighborhood. that lot does not conform to the neighborhood layout unless that house is going to be turned in conformance of the arc. So if there's a way to adjust that to make it look the same characteristics and aesthetics as the rest of the neighborhood, as I have been told, I've only been in that neighborhood for 15 years. Originally, that neighborhood was supposed to have a house there, but it got denied by the city because of the layout and not enough room. And in reality, the street is not designed already for enough parking. As I noted in our letter, that street is loaded with cars during any event. And we've been told that, well, you guys can go park on another street if they build it. Well, we're taxpayers of that street. We clean that street. The comment about the snow removal, it is a problem. One of the ladies that's not here today is super frustrated on the way that the snow gets piled up. So from the perspective of the street itself, and as no disrespect to the individual that wants to build it, we have no problem with the house being built there at 77 Willock Cove. We don't mind that there's a house there. It's that access to that driveway is super tight. If you were to come there and watch the garbage trucks guys kind of already turn around there, it's virtually impossible for them. From a safety perspective, the more traffic that comes on that street with that access is a large concern. The other thing that I would like to know is this drawing that was stamped it was stamped as a permit drawing that shows the driveway. So that's on page 13 or 19 or whatever. Again, that's not his driveway all the way to the street, his or her, pardon me. So it doesn't reflect what's going to happen there. So again, that goes back to a comment earlier that Councillor Allard said about aesthetics. Does it meet the aesthetics of the neighborhood? Will this meet the aesthetics of the neighborhood if the house is planted in a different direction? Yes or no?
We still have another minute and a half. If you want to add some more comments.
My concern is, the other thing is what engineering has been done in order to determine the runoff water from that lot onto William Knott Cove. What is done as far as water and sewer servicing that? We know that we have a water drainage line that goes behind our property and the lot beside us, but does not extend through our property into that Arden property. So I think there's a lot of things that we would like clarity on before this was even approved. I don't want it to be adversely affected by now all of a sudden there's a house there and I'm dealing with his drainage through my system. That's all.
Perfect. Those are fair comments. Any questions for the delegation? Questions? No. Okay. Saying none, we'll move on to our next delegate. Thank you.
All right, so also a possible appellant, Paul Graveline? No?
Not here.
All right, Andrea Cool?
She just wrote in and she wrote in.
All right, Cheryl Podolchuk? Richard Sturtzler, or Sturtzer?
Sorry?
Richard Sturtzer?
Yeah, it'll be me.
Would you like to speak, sir?
Just for a brief moment.
Sure. And also if you can just fill in one of those forms when you're done, that'd be great.
My name's Rick Sturzer. I reside at 65. My property is directly adjacent to the property in question. And everything that everybody has spoke to, I have the same concerns. I'm not going to sit there and reiterate everything. I just want to firstly say that I have met the applicant, Sean, a number of times. This is nothing personal. Like I said, our biggest concern is we have no idea of, because we're right on the cove. I'm right in the middle. My house is directly down the street. Paul's is turned slightly. Bob, his is turned slightly. Where is this house going to go? Is it going to be in compliance with the curve of the cove? You know, and we have no idea of the driveway. I don't know. I've been looking after that property in question, the city property, for almost 25 years now. When I built, I You know, I tilled it, I put the sod in, I've been watering it and maintaining it, the whole, and it's a green space that we all enjoy at that corner. But that'll be gone now. And that's all I want to say. I just, we have no information. I came home from golf one day, the sign was up on the fence saying that the variance was already approved by the city. And we had, none of the residents were approached. There was, you know, anyway, like I said, I just reiterate what everybody else is saying. Like I said, I'm not opposed to a home, but we have no idea of the design of the driveway, the design of the home, the direction of the home. And we'd like some, you know, maybe some information on that before it's proceed and goes ahead.
So on that, Madam Chair.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I hear from the neighbor that they're not opposed to a home. They want to know what the home looks like and they want another level of approval. Is the presenter aware that if this were to go to plan approval at the Riel Community Committee, there would be one more public opportunity to influence the designs of the house?
Okay, I just want to get this straight. When I said not opposed to a home, I would rather a home not be there. I really would. And I think everybody else is in the same boat. But he owns the land, he's entitled to. So yeah, we all agree that we would rather not have a home there. We like the corner, we like the way it looks, the aesthetics, the curb appeal, everything. Once that driveway is in and the home, that, you know, what does it do to property values? Is it gonna deter it? Like stuff like that. But yeah, nothing personally, Sean, it's just the concerns we have aren't addressed. We have no information.
Yeah, I think it's going in circles.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah,
it is.
Okay, one more question from Councillor Gilroy.
Yeah, can I just get an understanding? Do you have a brown house or a white house?
I'm not sorry.
I'm just looking.
Right.
Is that what's his address?
65.
So
Right
at the end of the
He's
street.
at the end of the street.
I just wanted to make sure the right
Oh, he's
picture. From me. Yeah, okay.
he's on 65 William Knock Cove. So he is the property beside. What is
Just
the
south
name
of
Cove?
the adjacent property.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm just curious, I am looking at your driveway, particularly your driveway. I noticed it looks like the flank of it, like how it I guess what you call it, the width of your driveway.
yeah.
Yeah, how old is your driveway? Is it like newly built? Was that built in 25 years ago to the house?
Built in 01, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
That's all I need.
Yep.
Thank you.
And then what we'll need is you need to fill out some paperwork.
Sure.
So if you got him to fill it out, perfect. Thank you.
All right, and just checking, is Shannon Sturzer here?
No.
All right. Then we'll go back to those in support. So next up is Robert Gray.
I reside at 61 Knock Cove, so I'm sort of facing the property at an angle. Rather than going on a stick, I just took a couple pictures of
Sure, the clerk will grab it from
the
you,
way it's situated.
and then you can have a seat at the end there. Welcome, good morning.
Morning.
Yes. All right. Go ahead, you have 5 minutes.
Okay, the house in question to be built there is has to be facing the side view, will be facing Rick's yard. It won't be angled to the bay as the rest of the house in the neighborhood. That's one of those, as far as the curb appeal of the house and whatnot else. The driveway, yeah, will be a tight squeeze to put something in there, but it'd be nice to see if it does get built, the existing structure that's proposed is that you see how the flow of the driveway goes into that area. And to Paul's point, as far as drainage, we all have a swale in the back of our yard for the swale and drainage of the yard. So I was the second person built in there. And at that time, they didn't allow 3 houses on that corner, which wasn't enough frontage, so. The other question is the variance got posted after it got tentatively approved by the city. Would the proper process be the variance be posted when the guy, proposed building a building on there prior to the city approving the condition of the easement?
We can ask the question of the administration. So, but there's not a question period at this time, so just continue on with your presentation.
I guess as far as the sight line of the property, like, just hypothetically, with a house sitting there facing the side of Rick's yard, Rick could build a fence up to the 13 feet of city property, could put a 6-foot fence across there. And then with him having front access off of William Knott Cove, it wouldn't be conducive to the look of the neighborhood. You have a driveway going into ghost property behind the fence. The house is angled towards the bay, more conducive to the way the current bay is. I don't know how much room he has, where he has to redesign his house.
Any other comments?
I think that sort of covers it. Like, and the easement, yeah, if you get access off hard, they would change the driveway, the stub driveway that's put in there, but it's more as far as a view of the house from the street that I got concerned with.
Any other question? Or sorry, you do, I think you still do, you have 2
No,
minutes left.
I'm good. Most other points been covered.
So the house is not going to be forward facing?
Nope. It's gonna be facing the side of Rick's house. So it'd look totally out of place.
I do have a question. So you said you were the second home that was
Yeah.
built in this community. So you're very familiar with what had occurred back then.
Yeah.
So the house that's on Arden Avenue, when I look at the property line, it looks like they actually own like quite a bit of that property. So what's the history there? I guess whoever built this community could not purchase the land from this guy who lives at Arden. I'm
Yes
assuming.
and no, because there wasn't enough room to put 3 lots in there then at that time. I found that out when I appealed my taxes based on frontage, and the realtor or developer selling sold me the property, stated they wanted to squeeze 3 houses in there in the corner, but there wasn't enough frontage. And if you look at it the way it's situated now, you cannot put a house in there to face our street.
Because I'm looking at kind of the community street that's over to, I'm assuming this is to the west of it, Harry Wyatt Place. I could see that there's 3 homes that kind of go around the cove a little bit, and they're all facing Harry Wyatt Place. So that design.
That had been prior to our development.
That is prior to your development. Okay. So William Knott Cove is more recent.
Yeah, it'd be 99, 2000 in that area. I say a reentry that they couldn't put 3 houses in that bay because of the frontage.
And then I didn't note when you were saying the house will not face the cove. At Darwin Street, 14 Darwin Street, and I'm just looking at Google View. It is kind of pivoted and changed and does face
Still faces the
Way
street.
in Darwin. Okay.
Still faces Darwin. I think they were backing on sort of a little bit of pie behind there with the bush structure that's behind them on other lot in Arden. So it was kind of a bizarre piece of land. So I guess they squared it off into their property, and they bought part of that easement. When we developed our properties, they bought a chunk of that easement from the city to put a fence there. They didn't want a walkway going through that piece of property. But there is one property in the very end of, I can't remember the house number, maybe 110, very end of Bethune and Wright Street, where it stubs there, and there's bush behind to the east of that, but there is a house added in there after the fact with an angled driveway that looks not, I guess in the future would look okay if the street continued, but it looks like it obviously was a drop in at that time.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no properties right across from it, but in this case, these people will be looking at the side of Rick's yard.
And I guess one question that I have for you is why not, I know somebody asked about, like it coming off of Arden instead of, sorry.
Instead of William Knox.
Yeah, thoughts on that, just.
I have no problem with that. I think it would be, I won't comment on it because he builds a house, what is he looking at it?
Yeah.
He's looking at the back of the other house, right?
Yeah.
So.
Then when we'd have Arden people out.
Yeah, we would.
Saying, build it on the other side.
It's a catch-22 situation. But you could have access to the house, it's still, I don't know, with the width of the lot and trying to angle a house, it'd be nice if you could make it work, but that could run into problems with side, even though a little bit of an angle would help it out, at least they'd be facing the street. I don't know what you got for need of variance for the side.
Okay.
Any thoughts of selling it to the city for green space?
That would be the out, that would be. You can buy my house for green space and I'll move to the west coast.
The city is trying to increase its green space. We have no money, but,
You have to ask the owner of 132 Arden.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, I appreciate the history lesson. It is a very unique situation.
Yeah.
I find this to be a bit of an anomaly, but we're here today.
Like I was
So,
concerned
thank
with
you.
street appeal, like
Yeah.
it's gonna be on.
No, we understand.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Let's move on.
All right, I'll just check with the gallery. Is there anyone else here who wishes to speak in support of the appeal? Seeing none, okay, then we'll go to our applicant, Pankaj Kalra, who is speaking in opposition to the appeal.
Hold on, I'm just gonna look, I think we have one of the area counselors here.
For information.
For information.
Yes.
Okay, so he will be speaking afterwards.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
What's his
I have some printouts too.
name? Yeah, you have something to hand out?
Yeah, I've already sent in the file, but there are some.
Hard copies are
show
great.
The driveway, how it looks.
Okay, you can have a seat.
Yes,
Good morning and welcome.
good morning. My name is Pankaj Kalra. I'm here to explain and trying to show what's going to be built, how we are entering to the house, and as we have an easement agreement with us, so we are not building a concrete driveway over there. The concrete driveway will be inside the house, not on the city property, because sometimes city might need to change some things over there. So I'm just having a brick like which can be removed and replaced back. So stone brick driveway, entrance driveway, which is a right way off from with the easement agreement we have. And the house is like other houses coming from the other side, shaping the same side. But yes, it is facing the side of 65 house. But in the drawings, I can definitely draw, make an angle. But then front alignment will come in the picture, that how I can come to front and turn the house toward. It is like visible from the cove, and it has its own driveway, double car garage, and entrance and things like that. Similar character, not changing anything on the curb, not creating any problem on the curb or on the road. So yeah, there are enough parking space for ourselves we have, and there are other houses have double car garage. The driveways are big enough where they can park the car. So I don't see any problem in the variance which is already approved, as all the department keeping in mind all these operations, picking up garbage, parking and everything, has already reviewed and approved the variance. So I tried to approach them, tried to show my easement agreement, tried to show my drawings, but they said they will talk to city on the appeal. And there is no encroachment. They raise a concern in their appeal that there is an encroachment, which they might came to know now it's an easement agreement, not an encroachment. And my drawings, my photographs are showing like that. Yeah, I came with like particularly explanation to each point, But what I'm hearing, they don't have any problem with the subdivision, they don't have any problem with the house. They want to know what's coming there, which I tried when I approached them. And now also with the pictures I'm showing, I can show these pictures right here if you want, so they can also see. And I'm not changing any character. And there will be sufficient green space left after I take the driveway. Like it is 50 feet, starting from the 15 feet, going a little bit wider as it is entering to the lot, getting 22, and inside there 22 feet. So not taking the whole parcels of land into that area, it will be still green. Rick can enjoy, I can enjoy the green space together as we will with the adjacent neighbor. Paul is there, so I'm not disturbing anybody's character, any problem to anyone.
Madam Chair?
Yep. Go ahead.
From,
He's got 1 more minute left. Anything else you
Oh,
want to add?
Yeah, everything is according to the bylaws, guidelines, taking care of everything. My drawings will take care. I already submitted the lot grading plan, which is showing that there will be no water going to Paul's side or Eric's side. It is drawing according to the survey certificate, like certified surveyors, and we'll follow the guidelines according to that while building up.
Think there's no. You're
All
done
right.
with your presentation?
Sorry?
Are you done with the presentation?
Well, I can say some more, but the points are not there. They are not concerned about
We
that.
have questions. We do have questions.
Please.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor Allard.
Yes, Madam Chair, I wanted to know, we've heard talk about punching the approach onto the other side of the property. What have you considered that? What are your thoughts on that? I don't know what the public service has to say about that, but
Punching the approach?
they've talked about having the approach on another street. Or
From Arden?
Yeah.
No, that's after subdivision, this will be two different lots. So Arden will know, and then I'll build a house which will be backing to the cove, which is more bad. If I take that entrance and keep my house facing that now that this house will show the backside to the cove, that's more not really good.
oh, like it's worse. Okay.
Yeah, so I'm, I'm keeping the street light there. I've showed in my picture, angling my entrance way around that. And in fact, when I build the house, it will be more lights there, so more brighter, no darkness.
And then another question: have the people in the gallery seen this yet?
I tried, but they said they will talk to the meeting. They didn't give me a time.
Okay.
In fact, Rick went to ask Paul that please come, we can talk. He said, no, we'll talk there.
Okay.
Taking out of context.
Hey, there
Well,
is no.
no
there is
representation
no,
of the gallery. Okay. So anyway, we have.
Hold on,
We can't.
sorry, wait, please let me finish.
Mhm.
I'm just gonna call for some decorum. I understand there's frustration, but I would appreciate that there be no comments coming from the gallery. You can let out your frustration when you have an opportunity to come and speak in delegation. You've done so, but comments from the gallery are not permitted, and I would like to keep it that way, please. Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Allard.
Yes. So. Yeah, I don't recall. I guess it's we can't communicate this to the residents that are in the room, unfortunately. But like we see, it'd be nice for them to have this. It's not part of the formal process because it certainly informs, what it might look like.
I sent all the documents earlier with my submission.
Okay.
When I
Your
registered.
submission, you
Yeah.
handed in through submission.
Yeah.
I do have a question. Okay, so you had talked about, was there any type of mail drops or consultation with the community on your plans to subdivide the property?
Not before, when I posted the paper, like posters, then I tried to approach that this is what's coming up.
Okay. So what you're saying is you're not going to be moving the lights, the street lights.
Sure,
Street lights are
sure
gonna
about
remain there.
Adding more lights to my house on the driveway, on the fence in the front will add more lights.
And this is a single family dwelling
It's a
home
single
that's being built,
Yes.
okay? No secondary
No second-
suite? Okay,
no.
just a single family home. Okay. Just looking at the floor plan, is there an opportunity, because you had mentioned you could try to pivot the home to a certain way so that it faces more of the cove?
Yeah,
I would assume because you may need to shrink the size of the home so that it can pivot and angle more towards William Knox. Is
yeah,
there
I'm okay
opportunities
with that.
to?
I don't know. This house I'm building it for me and my wife. So we have two kids are on their own. So we can shrink the size and we can make new drawings which is turning towards cove. But again, I'm just saying the alignment thing. If that is cool, I can bring it in front. Right now, I have like 20 feet back. Same way the other houses on the sides are 77 and others, not coming more front towards, and so it look odd coming up and down. So I'm keeping it in the level of that area, and to have more green space in our lot too. I'm not bringing the house too much in front because I need a driveway and then walkway and the stairs to enter and some green area. And the parcels of land are big enough, which I'm not using the whole with this agreement or anything. I'm using some to enter to my lot, and I can assure everyone, my neighbors to the city, that green land will be there. It will not be disturbed. Kids can play on that. They can shuffle their snow on that. I have no problem with it.
And then, final question. One of the counselors here had mentioned plan approval process. So even though here we're just discussing the subdivision,
Yeah.
The plans that are available that are here are just kind of schematics and ideas, and it's not
That's
the full out
the
plan.
idea we are better.
So would you be supportive of exactly what you had discussed, or these paperworks you discussed, that I think at plan approval is kind of the more appropriate time to bring these forward? I'm going to get clarification from the administration, but would you be amenable to having these plans come to plan approval at the community committee level?
Yeah, because now I have to go to the architect, engineer, and get the plan made, which incurs which involves money and everything. If subdivision is approved, variance is approved, I am ready to discuss the plans, and I'm ready to discuss the elevation with my neighbors. And if there is no problem in that, I'm ready to.
Perfect. Appreciate that.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Any other questions for delegate? No? Okay, well, moving on. Thank you for coming out.
Okay, next up in opposition, I have Sonica.
Morning. Well, we're lunch hour, so it's good afternoon.
Yeah.
We don't need a motion to move past lunch hour. No, okay, we're gonna keep going. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, much of the things Pankaj has already discussed it with you. So I'm just want to elaborate on a major concern that these people had. That was the driveway and the parking shortage. So we've done a little bit of homework ourselves. So I want to bring to everybody's attention that William Knockoff has 19 houses there, right? And each house has a 2-car garage. It's only 65 that has 3-car garages. So it shows that there is a total of 39 parking spaces for cars, right? Itself. And on the property itself. So the driveway of each property is big enough to hold another 2 to 3 cars. So this shows the availability of parking for almost altogether 40 to 45 parking spaces for residents, guests or visitors, or even the delivery persons. So making it a total of 80 to 85 car parking spaces on their properties itself. In addition, there are green spaces available between the houses. You can see it in the picture that we have shared with you. And that makes room for extra parking on the road. 2 cars can be parked between houses 77 and 81, 1 between 85 and 89, 2 between 89 and 93, 93, 101, and 1 between 105 and 109. So furthermore, there is more parking space available in front of the vacant land numbered 121 on the east side of 137 St. Michael Road on William Knockoff, which provides enough room to park additional 4 to 5 cars. So all in all, there is a possibility of parking around 90 to 95 vehicles within the William Knockoff only. So therefore, it is clear that the new house will not cause any major parking shortage or even for the garbage pickups or snow removal vehicles. So there won't be any congestion on the William Knox Cove. And we have already provided you with the drawing of the driveway that we are going to build there, which itself says that we are not going to see, we are going to gel into the very fabric of the neighborhood. So aesthetics, if they're talking about the aesthetics, we are going to take care of that. And as Pankaj said, we are free to discuss everything with the neighbors before we proceed with getting the actual house constructed there. So we also want to be the part of the community. I want to be a family with all of them. It's not something separate that we are going to do. So we have to gel into the very character of the neighborhood that already exists there. We just want to be a part of their community.
Okay. We have 2 more minutes left. Anything else you want to add?
Majorly, he has done everything. Okay. Another issue that I would like to say is that we're just trying to build the house so that we also know that each house needs all the safety. They have the lighting concerns. So our house is only going to make the place better lit. So we'll have the exterior lightnings there. And since we have a family, we know how to gel along with the people there. So I don't think that would be an issue. So every little thing can be taken care of. It's something that we can mutually discuss. If they have an issue, we can address to those issues. We want to become a part of their family. So whatever they suggest, that suggestions would be welcome.
Great. Questions for the delegate? No questions? Okay. Thank you for coming out. Appreciate your time. Moving on.
Right, I'll just check with the gallery. Is there anyone else here who has not registered who wishes to speak in opposition to the appeal? Seeing none, then we'll move for information. So Councillor Brian Mays.
Welcome, Councillor. Good to see you.
14 years in, and I think it's the first time I've appeared for information on something, which there's for that, which is I'm somewhat in favor of the appeal, but really what I'd like to see is a condition put on the easement. So I'll try and explain that, and I may stray into a bit of a history lesson myself. This is the neighborhood I grew up in and I still live in. So William Knox Cove if went back to when I finished high school, there was no street called William Knox Cove. It was all Arden and St. Michael with long back 200-foot deep properties meeting each other. So somebody amassed the properties. It's basically created by a series of back splits, which you can probably tell from the diagram. So the street is created. There are still a few holes left because some people didn't sell their properties. And in fact, one of them is filled in since I first got elected. So there's this home that's much newer than the rest of them on there. So that's not completely out of character with the neighborhood to have a back split. I'm inclined to believe the neighbors when they say, look, originally the city said you can't get 3 driveways in here. You can't. Well, times have changed a bit. Maybe we are trying to densify more than we used to. So I had a good meeting with the residents, talked about some of these concerns. I indicated, hey, if the developers come to talk to you, that isn't always the case. So, you know, that's you should take advantage of that. So my concern is not so much with the single family home that's being proposed, and I don't know about the details and the angle and any of that or the lighting, but I do know whether the back split is granted or not, the owner is going to have the right to do a 4-plex at 132 Arden. The depth doesn't matter. They've got 65 feet of width. They can choose to have the existing house stay or not. It doesn't matter. That right is there. My concern is really, do you create the opportunity for yet another 4-plex if you split off the back and allow that? The property is 65 wide, which is more than what you need to do a 4-plex. That's not the drawing. That's not what's being said. We're having a lot of talk about fitting in with the fabric of the neighborhood, which is all single family homes. So really the request I'm going to make is that you put a condition on the easement that they're restricted to single family home or a single family home with secondary suite. I think that's appropriate given the nature of the neighborhood and given it would be a pretty big increase in density to go from one house to two fourplexes. That's a pretty big increase in density instead of just having one house and one house or one house and a fourplex. So the whole street is created through a process of backsplit, so there's nothing particularly wrong about that. But in this particular one, you're giving someone rights they don't currently have. They don't have those rights to get in. That's why we're here. They needed an easement over city property. And I have some sympathy for the neighbor who said, I thought I bought a house next to a walkway. It was supposed to be a walkway to Darwin, and now you guys are saying there's going to be a driveway there. But again, when times change and neighborhoods change, but so you're granting an easement here to get over this city land. And then in talking to the planners, they're saying, yeah, but once he's got that, or they've got that, then they're 65 wide. And well, you're not really taking away their right to do a fourplex. This is a whole hearing about giving someone more rights to develop. They don't have the right now to do a backsplit because they don't have any street access. They don't have any street access onto William Knock. They need to come over our city property. So I don't think there's anything untoward with the city putting a condition on saying, fine, you can do that and we'll densify. And you're saying you want to fit in and you're saying you want a single family home, fine. That's the condition. I mean, I'm not going to get into the parking or the snow clearing or the street lighting, all of that stuff we've dealt with many times. But it's granting rights that somebody doesn't currently have. And you might say, well, but everyone else on the street could do a fourplex. No, they couldn't because some of them are only 50 wide and they need 60 width. So you're not taking away a right that other people have here. You're creating a right to do some sort of housing. It's really what sort of housing do you want? I don't know if it came up in evidence earlier, but this 132 Arden is just outside the 800 meters from frequent transit. So 132 Arden could only go 35 tall, even if they're doing a fourplex, and same condition would apply. This William Knock, you'd have a much longer walking distance because it's a cove, regardless. So no one here can go over 35 feet. That's a limitation on a right as well. I'm going to have 2 more minutes, maybe.
2 minutes.
Yeah.
Finish up. Okay. Moved by Councilor Allard, 2-minute extension. All those in favor? Aye, and that's carried. Go ahead.
So
Finish up.
there's nothing in front of you that says fourplex, either for the Arden property or the William Knock property, but you create certain rights, people can take advantage of them. So I would encourage you to put a limit on the easement to say, look, it's a single family home, and I think the developer can come up and rebuttal here, and I suspect we'll agree with that because what they're saying is they just want to do a single family home. I guess a couple of final comments, Councillor Allard, and I know Devin will be familiar with this. There's a passage in the infill guidelines that talks about the desirability of infilling where properties have back lanes. Page 14 or 18, I can't remember off the top of my head. Maybe Mr. Clark there, who is the author, does, or Councillor Allard. This isn't a place where there's a back lane. So it's also not in the infill guideline area, but we tended to take that philosophic approach. We'd like to intensify where there's a back lane. We don't have it here, but here's an opportunity to intensify a bit. I guess I would just say you can over-densify. We know that from the Parker lands. We all voted against any development at LeMay Forest, so we didn't over-densify there. Councillor Allard and I had one on John Bruce Road where they were asking for like 29 townhome units, and Councillor Allard, I think, approved 5 or 8 homes. We eventually settled on 5 or 8 homes, and his view was, yeah, I increased the density, but I didn't overly increase the density, and I supported that approach. So it's a balancing act. So I would be okay with the single family home, but I would want some limits placed on the easement just to make sure that this doesn't morph from being a single family home and a single family home to suddenly fourplex and fourplex, because you don't have that right now. You've got to come here and get the easement. So we're not taking something away. So to say, oh, I want to do it, I'll get the easement. Oh, well, now I have 65 watt. I can do a fourplex. That to me seems, that would be bad thing. So I would encourage you to put in, I don't know about the plan approval. I don't really care either way on that, but I think on the easement, which is the subject matter of the hearing, is the easement. if the city is granting it, the city can certainly put limits on it in terms of limiting the density of what it's gonna serve.
Duly noted. Any questions for Councillor Mays on some of the comments or information he has provided?
Through you, Madam Chair, to Councilor Mays, do you think this is gonna be the last single family home on the street if we put this condition on? And if that is, if approved, and if the easement condition were for a single family home one day, do you think this is gonna be the last single family home? I don't know.
I'm not.
When in 2079?
Well, somebody can tear down, further down the street, the lots get wider. So if they've got 60 wide, they could go tonight and start tearing down and build. That's what we voted on with the fourplexes. But what the plannings have been very good at doing is not granting variances, saying we set up this whole new regime, much expanded rights. So fit within the box. We're not giving you we're not giving you a variance, like fit within the box. So here it's a unique one. It's odd, but I'm saying, well, look, we're not taking something away. So yeah, the guy who's ever there's one black split left to do on this street. If that lot's 60 wide, they're fourplex away. There's nothing any of us can do about it. But here we can do something about it, I guess. So I'm not sure I get the question, but there may be development aplenty on this street in years to come, but it is more than 800 meters from frequent transit, so that'll limit the height.
Yeah, I understand what you're giving us proposed path forward. Thank you for that.
Okay, thank you. No further questions.
Okay,
Thank you for coming out. Okay,
Check with the gallery. Is there anyone else here who wishes to speak for information? Seeing none, so the committee can go ahead and ask questions of the public service.
Yeah, go ahead.
excuse me.
Yeah, I'm sure there people seem to be almost expressing themselves in the gallery. Perhaps we could inform everyone where we're at in the process.
Yeah, so we are at the point where we can ask administration questions, clarity, and then after that, the appellants that are registered will have an opportunity to come back and rebut to the information they have all heard, just not speak to any new information.
If they want to.
If they want to, yeah, if they want to. I believe, how many appellants do we have?
We have 3 in total.
And they are?
They are Stephanie Corchain.
Okay.
Paul Amsler.
Okay.
And Richard Sturzer.
Okay, but we'll do questions of the administration first.
Well, I guess Councilor Mays made a very valid point, because we're gonna be giving them the rights with the, adding land to their property. So can we put a caveat on there saying that, no fourplex can be built?
Yes, you do have the ability to put that on there, and that's something that we've discussed back at our office. However, we are against that recommendation, as it's limiting a right that the property should have, and it's not limiting the rights of anyone else on the street. No, these houses may not necessarily meet the width for a fourplex, but if we're talking 2079, who knows what happens in, the 50 years from now to then, they all have the width to build a triplex. And so it would be, we deem that it would be, unfair to limit one right and not limit other rights. Why single out one specific property?
That's why I was asking the question, Councilor Mays. Because and Councilor Mays is, this is not discussion, it's question, Q&A. Okay, so we can impose as a condition of an easement to allow for the construction of a single family home, but only for the purposes of the construction of a single family home. That is something that we can do at this committee.
Yes, you can have that as a condition on the variance.
Okay. And then, to be clear, that would be limiting the building rights on this particular property in a way that would be not consistent with the rest of the neighborhood. However, we would be, if this passes today, granting a new right with the specific condition.
That's correct, yeah.
Okay. So basically, we're up zoning with the condition.
Yeah.
And just so residents can maybe hear, just because some of them, this is their first experience, can you explain maybe if we were to allow this to go back to plan approval to the Riel community, what that would look like, so residents would be able to know what to expect if they were to come back to planning.
Yeah, I'll let you take that one.
So the applicant would be required to submit plans to the city. At that time, zoning would note that there's a condition of plan approval on this variance. It would be asked to submit plans to the director as well as the Riel Community Committee. And that those plans would then be scheduled for the next available Riel hearing, where those plans would be brought forward to the Riel councillors and reviewed for approval. Those plans would be posted on the website, the city website, Demas, prior to that public hearing. So the applicant and residents would have the opportunity to see those plans prior to the meeting.
I do have questions about the easement. We heard from some delegation that are seeking some clarity on the easement portion. So if you could, to the best of your ability, like in plain language, explain the easement. And I guess, yeah, let's just start off there. And I may have follow-up questions.
So the easement agreement between the city and the applicant is to allow for a driveway to be constructed to access William Knott Cove. The condition on the easement is that the city is granting the authority to build a driveway, but that the city still maintains ownership and possession of the lot and can at any time come and do any required maintenance or anything they need to on the property at the expense of the applicant, or at the expense of the applicant for any repairs that would need to be done.
So it's different than an encroachment. Because I've heard the word encroachment floating around. So it's completely different than an
It is
encroachment,
different
right?
from an encroachment, yes.
Encroachment is a completely different
Mhm.
process. I think I've heard at one point in time a delegate said, how come the easement wasn't provided to other neighbors and so on and so forth? Could you talk about that? I think someone had said, why wasn't the easement offered to other residences around the community?
I think because the other properties wouldn't necessarily have a reason to build a driveway on it. This easement is specifically granted for a driveway for access, and there would be no reason for any neighboring properties to construct a driveway on it.
Okay. Are there limitations to the driveway itself that the owner would be prohibited or allowed to build? Because we heard from the owner that they can't cement over top. They have to do, looks like stone brick, like patio. So are there limits to that?
I believe, and I'll have to double check this, but I believe that is just a personal choice. If you give me a moment here, I can try to find the exact wording in the easement agreement.
While Sawyer's doing that, I'll just add that on the easement agreement, plans are required to be submitted to the director to confirm compliance with any regulations or, widths or anything like that as part of the easement agreement.
What is the standard width of a driveway?
You put me on the spot.
Because right now they're saying it.
Do you mean in San Natal or in
15,
Charlton?
looks like 15 feet seems to be the only space.
Yeah, it depends. So there's the conforming rights. I'm gonna have to take a look. I don't want to. I would throw numbers out there and it would be 100%.
Is it the zoning bylaw or internal planning practice?
This would be the approaches bylaw.
Approaches bylaw. Okay.
Because there are certain limits, I think, to the size that needs to be.
That's right, and it depends on their circumstances. If it's in proximity to a street tree or other factors that could affect.
Well, there is a lamp post, so I feel like that would come into effect, like you mentioned, like a tree or a lamp post. Yeah. But I would assume while you're doing the research, with the subdivision of the land, people would have had to internally have looked at, specifically like the driveway approach, right? Someone in Public Works would have had to measured it, gone out there and measured it to ensure that the driveway would conform to the driveway approach bylaw before they can actually approve the subdivision of the lot.
Well, that's right. When they receive these types of requests to allow for easements, it's circulated. So
Yeah.
Public Works has the opportunity to, particularly if it affects them. So Public Works and Water and Waste both affected by this. They had an opportunity to review and verify that they were supportive of, in fact, an easement going here.
Okay. And so that's how it was kind of approved internally.
Correct.
Okay, and so then with the subdivision, so once the city internally had kind of approved those kind of what you had mentioned, then there would be, then that's when the poster goes up, right, to show the community that there is a subdivision happening. Okay, okay. So in essence, the city had approved the subdivision, but right now the city has not approved what the house and what the driveway configuration is. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, and at that point in time, that's when plan approval can take a play to kind of show all of that at plan approval. Okay, and sorry, I think you had a.
Yeah, and I found the wording here,
wording?
so.
Okay, of the easement
Of
agreement?
the easement, so it's saying you can't build anything except a driveway, and the driveway is subject to the director's approval, like the design of the driveway.
Design of the driveway. Okay. So there are some limitations to that, right? Okay, of what the driveway and the size and what it looks like. And,
That's right. And I've got the width for you.
You have the width, okay, what's the width?
It must not be less than 3 meters or greater than 6.5 meters.
I need that in feet.
Oh, yeah.
I don't do those.
I know,
metrics.
let me
Roughly.
So sorry, I don't do those metrics here.
That's all over the place. 10 to 20, roughly, give or take a little bit.
3 meters, 9.8 feet. And then,
Okay.
How many hands is that? When you're measuring a horse, you use hands.
I don't do feet.
and then 6.5 meters is 21.
21 feet, okay. So we can go in between,
3 and 6.5 meters.
and that is what the allowable width of a driveway is on any property in the city of Winnipeg, as long as they can fit it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Cause you,
but is that what the easement allows? The easement allows between those two? So
Yeah, so it'll be-
seems like a very generic,
Yes, it'll be at the director's approval, which would still be applicable to all of the other, what we're talking about here would still be applicable.
I just have a concern on behalf of the future person who lives in this home, if it is approved. So currently, if your sewer line breaks on a residential homestead property, you're only responsible for the part that is on your side of the property or not. I know this is a bylaw one waste question, you may not have the answer. But I understand that if it's commercial property, wherever the break occurs, it's on the property owner to connect to the city trunk line. So if we're saying at no cost to the city, everything related to city works, I'm thinking of the future person who's there, where everyone in the neighborhood who has a single family homestead house has their like trunk line covered to the sewer, wouldn't want to have this property be treated differently on that front. Are you following me? If your sewer line breaks, your homeowner, all of a sudden your sewer doesn't work, you call Roto-Rooter, like, sorry, your line's broken. And my understanding is if it's homestead, single family house, the city will pay for its side. If it's the city's side, the homeowner will pay for their side. If it's the homeowner's side.
that's at the shop valve.
But what side is that in this case?
Read that, it's included in the agreement.
It is included? It's already been, you've
so
already
it's,
cleared that part?
it's included in the agreement that anything that happens on the city-owned property, to say the city has to come in and dig up the driveway to access the pipe underneath, the city then just walks away and leaves the driveway as is when they're done, and it's on the applicant to come in and repair it.
Wow.
But
Really?
I guess like,
For the maintenance of their driveway, okay, so the city will come in and do the work to fix whatever's underneath there on the city property. But then afterwards,
they won't have to restore it.
the owner is responsible for restoring the driveway afterwards.
Because it is not it's not like a private residence waterway that it's splitting off from the main to go to the private. It is the main, the water main. So the city needs to maintain constant access to that. So it's the risk is taken on by the applicant. in the owner, yeah.
I really want them to hear this because I think it's really important that they understand that the city could come in, just so that the person that's getting this land, the city could come in and at any time rip up that driveway and leave it like that.
Is this gonna be on title? Not gonna be on title? Cause it seems to me like, we should have a sign saying, like, there be dragons here if you're buying this house. This particular stretch of driveway could get like torn up.
It's gonna be new pipes though, so there you go.
Well, are we sure the owner's not gonna be
Well, that's,
paying, like, if it's approved, if we add the caveat saying single family use only, are we sure we're not making them more responsible than other single family home properties for this trunk line part? For the part that normally would be covered by the city of Winnipeg, part of the sewer that normally would. I feel like my question is not being understood.
Like I'll try here, I might be understanding. They are more responsible because they're building over the city's land. They're taking on additional risk because of that. They're building on land they don't own. No one else on the street has.
Could extend to the underground as well.
Correct, yeah. And because the pipes are all underground.
Right, okay. So basically, the pipe breaks, it's on the city side. They're on the hook for paying it, whereas the neighboring property would, because it's not on the city side, have it paid by the Water and Waste Department.
So Water and Waste will pay for all of the expenses for the repair of it, but they won't fix the driveway that they had to dig up. So the only thing the homeowner would be responsible for is repairing their driveway.
And so the bricks and the concrete.
Okay, because I think people.
yeah. so
I have a
bricks would
case.
be
I have a
easier, so they
case.
can Just lift the.
I have a
bricks up and
case
move them.
now where
Yeah,
like a commercial property owner of a smaller building has to pay for the whole thing, the connection to the city line, where in the past, that would have been like, as long as it was on the city side, it would have been covered by the city, but now it's like at the property owner's responsibility.
Yeah.
Just, I'm not sure where the line, like
Where the cutoff valve.
where the line
The
is.
shut off valve.
Yes, I got it.
The shut off valve. Yeah. The
So
shut off
it's
valve
the
would
property
probably
line.
be,
So that doesn't change.
I don't think that changes, the shut off valve. That would be up to the, are you looking for how long from the shut off
Yeah,
valve?
like, are we
to
talking-
The city line would be? That I
I'm
don't know if
worried-
they can answer that question.
I don't know that they can answer the question, but I'm just worried that this property would be treated differently than other properties. Because this caveat it's talking about which part is city land, which part is not city land. The sewer is either covered or not covered, depending on what the line is.
But it should be treated differently because they gotta go over city land.
Yes.
So, yeah, like.
Okay, well, again, it's something to sort out.
Yeah.
It goes forward.
I don't think we have any other questions to clarify. I think that was it, just the easement. Anything else? You guys can think of, no?
So we can send this
Back to plan
back to
approval.
plan approval.
Yeah, that will deal with the driveway and the home.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you guys want to add? One last comments, clarity that you've heard from delegates that we have missed? Yeah, go for it.
I'm not thinking many things or anything. I think we're good, yeah.
Yeah, you're good? Okay. Okay, all right, then we will move into the appellants who have an opportunity to rebut onto the items we have discussed and then no new information. So let's start off with the first one.
All right, and that would be Stephanie Corchain.
Hi again. I'll keep it short. It's been a
Sure.
long morning for everybody. You
can have a seat.
Just feeling out how you guys are talking about the sewer, going over city property, all of this, that land is getting treated differently because there isn't supposed to be a driveway there. There isn't supposed to be that easement. And I feel like there's a lot of us here that feel that. And again, like Rick said, it's nothing personal, but as a community, we are very upset that that's going there.
Thank you. Thank you. Next.
Next, we have Paul Amsler. He's good. Okay, so we'll go with Richard Sturzer.
I think it was addressed. I only had one question, and it was in regards to the driveway, and I think Sean had mentioned, I misunderstood whatever, that it was going to be a gravel driveway. Obviously, it's not. It's going to be interlocking brick, so the city can have access to the underground. That's the only concern I had with the driveway, but and of course the width of it, which you guys are going to address, I'm assuming. Okay, because he's only got 15 feet between Paul's driveway and mine now. You know. Okay, that's all I have.
Right. Let me go to the top of the page. I will entertain any motions or discussion first. Do you want to at least take the public service be read, do the public representation, and then before you move anything, maybe talk about, you could provide, I like to prefer you provide your intent, and then we can have a debate on the intent and then go through the variance part, subsection 247. You want to do that first?
Yeah, I'm just pulling up the script.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can make it bigger though. You can't see.
I could see it. I can read it.
Really-
I can read it. It's what it's saying. Okay, I move that the Winnipeg, that the report of the Winnipeg Public Service be taken as read.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I move that the receipt of public representation be concluded.
Aye. Oh, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Okay, I move that,
You want to do this subsection or do you want to provide your
well, okay, so my
comments in the
intent,
beginning? Yeah, what's your
my,
intent?
my intent is
Because I feel
to,
like there might be some amending motions coming on the.
for sure.
Yeah, so let's do
Like
that.
I intend to, move that the development would be compliant with some additions.
Okay.
I understand the planning department's position on the idea of like restricting the property rights on this property relative to all the other properties, in the easement. I did hear Councillor Mays come forward and propose something that would, I guess, limit the development of the property, but would allow for this property to be used for that use. And Councillor Mays is right, this would be net new rights. It would be net new rights in terms of the easement onto the property. It would be net new rights in terms of being able to build a house here. So I think we're giving net new rights. Maybe not, maybe this property will have less rights than all the properties around it, but it will, if this motion passes, be allowed to be constructed. So my comment about what happens in 2070 is like, so you have a single family house and it's like surrounded by fourplex. And I think the other condition in terms of the easement will have to be sorted out administratively. The question I had about about this, who's responsible for the sewer portion, I'm not sure that was entirely understood by anyone. So, all that being said, I think if there's a will of the committee, and there was a will of the Councillor Mays to come forward to propose something practical, I think we should follow that lead.
Okay.
So if I'm in order, I'll read the 247 part and then with amendments, Mr. Clerk.
Yes, you'll do supporting reasons before you do amendments.
Okay. So I move that in accordance with section 247.3 of the City of Winnipeg Charter, the variance is consistent with Plan Winnipeg, and any applicable secondary plan does not create a substantial adverse effect on the amenities, use, safety, and convenience of the adjoining property and adjacent area, including an area separated from the property by a street or waterway, is the minimum modification of a zoning bylaw required to relieve the injurious effect of the zoning bylaw on the applicant's property, and is compatible with the area in which the property to be affected is situated. Supporting reasons, well, I would like to amend, but that comes after, Mr. Clerk. I've already stated some supporting reasons, but I will briefly say that I'm supporting this because, well, I plan to move an amendment that is in line with what the area councilor has proposed. And it is an amendment that would limit the allowable, what is allowed on the site, but would allow for the construction of a single family home. And that is a way forward that is perhaps not everyone's preferred way forward, but is a way forward for us today.
Okay. Any further comments? No further comments. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So I move that the appeal be, Mr. Clerk, this is where I need help. Is it allowed in part or
There is no in part, so you're either allowing or denying the appeal.
and then, okay, so
Appeal.
well, my intent is to allow for the construction of a home with the easement, the easement allowing for only the construction of a single family home as per Councilor May's comment.
So with concurrence from the planners, that would be allowing the appeal and canceling the decision of the director with amendments.
Yep.
Can you read the amendments? What was the language
Well, it's
you had supported?
Councilor Mays wanted the easement to allow, I think he said, I think it was registering on title, like a caveat that only a single family home would be constructed. Or is that something that we can do at the administrative level as part of the approval process?
Today, we can apply a condition on the variance. The easement agreement has been entered into already and.
So condition on the variance that this be approved on condition that it is only for the construction of a single family home.
Yeah, I've got some language here. I can.
Sure.
That on proposed lot 1, the use shall be limited to a single family residential dwelling.
Okay, that's a condition of the variance.
Condition of the variance,
Okay.
yeah.
What about the plan approval back at Real Committee? Where's that come into play?
I have some language for that as well, if that's the direction that the committee wants to go in.
I didn't hear the councilor say approval back at committee, but sure, like out of an abundance of caution, I'll move that plan approval be come back to the Real Committee.
Sure, I can read that out if you like. That on proposed lot 1, the owner must submit plans showing the location and design of any and all proposed principal buildings, A, principal buildings, B, private approaches on the owner's land, quote unquote, the works to the city for approval by the Director of Planning, Property and Development, the Director, and the Real Community Committee prior to the issuance of any building or development permit, and thereafter must construct the works in substantial conformance with the approved plans and maintain the works to the satisfaction of the director.
So moved.
Okay. Just the two, so the easement and then the plan approval. Yeah, those are the two amendments.
Yes.
You're okay to move those amendments?
I am, yeah. The clerk confirms this is in order.
Is that in order?
Yes.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and then I move that variance order DAV 192913-2025 B.
So we will cancel that one as we will issue a new one.
Canceled, and I move that a new variance order.
No, you don't need to do that, no.
I don't do that now?
Yep.
Okay, so then I move to,
Cancel it.
right, so I move that the order be canceled,
Yeah. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
and then I move that the public hearing with respect to the appeals be concluded.
Correct. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And please note that the committee has made a final decision on this matter, which is not subject to further appeal. Thank you.
Right. That is it. Cindy,
I'll move
Councilor
adjournment.
moves adjournment. Okay, Councilor Gilroy moves adjournment at 12:43 PM. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.